All right. Good morning, afternoon, evening, depending on where you're joining us from. Hello, hello, hello. I am joining from Nigeria. So for me, it's good evening. To all our fellow Nigerians, I say good evening, wherever your time zone may be. Welcome, 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 welcome. Who is excited? Let me see some reactions in the chat. Let me also give some shout outs. Who can I see in the chat? Okay, Muriel from Cameroon. Hi, good evening. Yaya Yusuf from Nigeria. Good evening, good evening. I see Abdul Karim Okunsoya from Nigeria. Good evening. Oh, I see Mwende from Kenya. Good evening. Gambo, wonderful. Meina Bawa from Gambo. Wow, wow. Good evening, Meina. Okay, let's see. Let me give some more shout outs. Let's give some more shout outs. Muriel from Cameroon. Okay, hi Muriel. Musa Mohammed from Nigeria. Good evening. Wow, this could be so fast. Okay, let's see. Let me still shout out. Maybe like 5 more people. Okay, I see Lizzie Adijoke from Nigeria. Good evening. I see Ishola from Nigeria. Good evening. I see someone from South Africa. Wow, Pulen from South Africa. Good evening. Okay, I see Tanzania. Wonderful. Baraka from Tanzania. Wow, Malawi, Dr. George from Malawi. Good evening. I see Kenya again, Eunice from Kenya, Charlotte from Cameroon, Kayombo from Zambia, Isaac from Nigeria. Wow, wow. We are well represented here. I see so many African countries. This is wonderful. Good evening. I see we're excited. This is great. You're boosting my excitement as well. You're making me even more excited for this evening. Wow, 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 wow. This is wonderful. Welcome, 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 welcome to the Africa SDG Mentorship Program for today. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I see all the reactions in the chat. It's really wonderful. It's wonderful. This is beyond amazing. I see you're all excited for today. Today is going to be wonderful. So on behalf of AIIDEV Africa, I want to say a very big welcome. Welcome to you all. Welcome to the Africa SDG Mentorship Program that we're having for today. We have a very distinguished guest with us today who is going to be sharing a lot of insight with us today. But first and foremost, let me just get in the chat box. What are your expectations for today? Just drop some things in the chat box and I'll come back right around to read those. But drop your expectations for me. What are your expectations for today? Drop that for me in the chat. I'll come back to read that. But first and foremost, I want to hand over to our Regional Director, Mr. Emmanuel, who is going to be sharing some thoughts with us. He's going to brief us very quickly. So let me have your expectations in the chat while we have Mr. Emmanuel first, and I'll be right back to read all your expectations for today. So Mr. Emmanuel, please, sir, you can go right ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Tolua, and a very good evening to each and every one of you from respective countries you are joining from. Very, very important. I quickly do this because it's a response to the call of each and every fellows of this program and to those who are joining on YouTube. So what I'm doing quickly is very easy. And I know that we have a whole lot of people that have been asking questions regarding the phase of this program, most especially the development phase. We just like to spend like 5 to 7 minutes doing that before we also have our facilitator who is already on the call. Thank you very much, Dr. Charles, for the amazing work which you do across. But please let me celebrate Dr. Charles. He has been an amazing leader and great facilitator, imparting us back to back all through the period of the year. All right, so I'm going to be sharing more information, and I feel it's more easier for me to if I share my screen so that you can all be on the same page as regards the activity on this program. I hope you can see my screen. Please just confirm if you can see my screen, Tolua, and I will keep on with my presentation.
Yes, sir. We can.
So, very, very important. We are currently running the weekly specialized trainings, and you already have the modules which you're going to be learning on. and she's going to be introducing the facilitator for today. And most importantly, you were informed during the information session that you'll be having your monthly growth performance and evaluation report the last days of the month. And this is going to be shared like 3 days ahead. That 29th, you're going to have access to fill your evaluation report for the month. So you're evaluating, it's a self-evaluation. Okay, what are the things you've learned? What are the growths you've observed? It's a mentorship program, actually. So both professionally and personal, talking about your soft skills, leadership skills, and the likes. And most importantly, you are also to have your peer-to-peer book review. And very, very important, that's every last Saturday of the month. You have to do your book review and more focusing on your weekly learning dialogue series, which is the last day of the week. It's always a Saturday. So you have to fix any time, which as a team, I believe that each and every one of you on this call, also joining on YouTube, apologies that the Zoom is unable to take each and every one of you. We hope the programs team will fix that as time goes on, but we believe that it's still more easy for some people to join via YouTube instead of keeping each and every one of you on YouTube. So you can either join via Zoom or YouTube. So enjoy while you also get to learn for that from your facilitator. So talking about the weekly learning dialogue, very, very important. This is a one-off thing which you have to do every weekend. So I remember that this week is focused on time management, and there is a case study video. There's a video that has been shared with you, and which has different points. You have to come together as a team to share the salient points and your own perspective when it comes to time management. And you're also expected to have team bonding activities, have your games, have connect and networking sessions within this learning dialogue series. So it's not just learn. So you also have to catch that one. Very, very important. And also to the research and case study development priority group, which we believe we are all working on, and very, very important. And there's a submission template which is going to be shared with you, both for the research and also for the workshop report. And it's very, very important for each and everyone to get to submit per time and according to the timeline which we have there. And also in the month of August, based on your case study development and review, maybe you are focused on SDG 4 and you are to present a workshop series in line to what your research and case study is on. And this is something you're going to be doing virtually. It's a one-off thing, depending on your team. If you want to have it twice, it's on you to decide on that. But most importantly, you have to keep to time, you have to keep to the dates. And also, we also have the submission of research, and that's development project strategy. And this is very, very important. And I think speaking more on this has to do with remember phase 1, you submitted a development proposal. So when in phase 2, you have to submit a development project strategy. How do you intend to implement your project? How do you intend to scale up your project? So these are the things which are going to be these are the things that are going to be addressed, and you are going to submit individually. This development project strategy is an individual activity, while your research and workshop report is a team activity. So I hope that you get all of this information. You have this document already. And next week, your weekly dialogue series is going to be focusing on networking, and you also have public speaking, email etiquette, and all of those information. Then the book of the month, I believe you are reading. I hope you are reading the book. Very, very important. So if you don't read, we are going to catch you when you are submitting your monthly evaluation report. And that's meant to be part of the monthly evaluation report. I won't like to take much of your time because I know that your facilitator is already on the call to run today's session. And I would just like to hand over back to Tolua. And if you still have any question, please put the question straight forward to your team lead, and your team lead is going to share with the communication engagement officer, and they are going to respond to that, and you can be assured that every of your concerns are going to be addressed. Thank you, each and every one, and we want to beseech you to make the use of this opportunity and get to unlearn, relearn, and keep learning. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of today's session.
All right, thank you so very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel. So, as he said, we're going to go right ahead into it. But first, I want to give a little shout out to the people we have on YouTube. Let's just give them a little shout out. They are not forgotten. So on YouTube, I see Rukaya Isa from Nigeria. I see Olawumi David. I see Yusuf Dao. I see Regina Musembi. I see Emmanuel Omeje. I see Moraes. I don't want to spoil your surname. So I see Moraes as well. So shout out to all the people we have on YouTube. And welcome once again. Yacinta Fury on YouTube, I see you as well. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to go right into it. But let me just see if I have anything to read out from the chat. Let's see the expectations I have on the chat. So let's see. So first expectation I'm going to read out, I see from Joseph, who is from Uganda. Let's see. Oh, I think I've missed that. Just a minute, please. Just a minute. Let me get that back. Okay. So Joseph from Uganda says that his expectation is to give more clarity on SDG 13. He's almost done with the assignment. I'm not sure I get that, but I think he said he wants to get more clarity. Ahmad from Jigawa says that he's delighted to be on the platform. He is really looking forward to an interesting session today. And I can assure you it is going to be an interesting session. We have Dr. Charles in our midst, so it's definitely going to be an interesting session. Yahya Yusuf says we learned about project management last week. It was full of information and loaded. We expect more on developmental concept today. Okay, great. So without further ado and without wasting too much of our time, we're going to go right ahead into it. And today we are going to be looking at proposal writing, proposal and grant writing. And we have none other than Dr. Charles Wishen. I got the name right. So we have none other than Dr. Charles Wishen here with us. Dr. Charles is already on the call, ever ready to be with us today. Dr. Charles, it's so great to have you once again. Thank you for being with us today. So let me go. Thank you. So let me go right ahead and read his profile. So Dr. Charles Wishen is a versatile social entrepreneur, and he is an SDG advocate. He leverages his experience across agriculture, technology, and the nonprofit sectors. He's an alumnus of Columbia Business School. Shout out to any Columbia Business School alumni we have here. He's also an alumnus of the University of Ibadan and the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. So shout out, even though my university is not there, but it's fine, it's okay. And so Dr. Charles has managed grant-based partnerships with the USAID, the GIZ, and even the World Bank. He's the founder of the Mafube Collectives. Charles supports young professionals globally through their career and brand advisory services. He offers career and brand advisory services. And so as a grant and program consultant, his expertise drives impact across over 3,000 clients in 9 countries. This is amazing. He is guided by his passion for shared experiences and divergent thinking. So who is ready? Who is excited that we have Dr. Charles here today? Can I see some reactions in the chat box? Are you ready for this session? Let's get some reactions. Are you ready? Are you excited to have Dr. Charles with us? We are going to learn on grant and proposal writing. Let's see your reactions in the chat. Let's get some reactions. Oh, we see some reactions already. Oh, great. More reactions. Let's have more reactions. Okay, I see you. Dr. Charles, I hope you can see them in the chat. They are ready. Ready. Let's have a few more reactions. Come on. Okay, great. So without further ado, Dr. Charles, I'm going to hand over to you to blow us away. take our minds away with the session today. Thank you, Dr. Charles. You can go right ahead.
Okay, yes, thank you very much. Good evening. I don't know if my voice is clear enough.
Oh, yes, very, very clear.
Okay, yes. Thank you very much. Yes, thanks a lot to AIIDEV as well. It's been an interesting journey personally for me. I mean, this is a platform I've always, anytime I'm called upon, I don't even get to think twice. It's always interesting for me to be a part of this as well. So today we'll be talking about proposals and grants. Basically, yes, I think like you did earlier, I've gotten to know some of the things we'll be expecting from this. But then specifically on this topic, if there are probably future expectations you are having or what you want to learn on or get on with before the end of this, just let me know. And I'll make sure to be able to speak on that as well. So please, I think I'll also be monitoring the chat box to be sure that I'm not missing out on anything. So from my own experience, why I've been big in the grant space, I think one of the things that was not mentioned in my portfolio is I think from the COVID period, 2020 till date, till last year, I worked basically in a strong agriculture technology firm, and I was part of the team that were able to raise almost $500,000 worth of grants. Probably in today's value, it should be about 750 million naira from lots of projects. So most of the international agencies that was mentioned that I work with, it's actually, I originally want to call it grant-based partnerships. So it's basically from grants that we're able to secure that. And to the best of my knowledge, most of what we assume grants and proposals are based on the old knowledge you have, and what is currently existing is quite different. And that's part of what I'm going to be teaching us today. So please, I will encourage us to get our writing materials or somewhere you can take a note, because I'll be dropping some tips. Okay, thank you. Let me be checking the chat because I'll be dropping some. Just a minute, please. Okay, yeah, because I'll be checking some. I'll be dropping some tips to just make sure that we're not missing out on anything. Okay, so I'm seeing that's Augustine. I hope to learn technicalities of proposal writing. Okay, thank you very much. I'll just make sure that I touch on this. So just go right ahead because of time. Please, if you have questions, you don't need to wait till I'm done. You could just probably, especially when I'm going to the next slide, just ask a question. Whenever I check the chat, I'll just pause to respond to that. I want to make sure that I'm able to attend to some of the answers before we're done. Okay, yeah. Thank you. So I think before we go, our next slide, I want to talk about this little exercise. So please, if you can take like maybe a minute, if you can take a minute off to just go to YouTube, go to Google and Google yourself. I call it the Google Yourself Challenge. Okay, so go to Google and put your first name and your surname, not your surname and your first name, your first name and your surname in this order, just like you can see on my screen. Then press enter. Just let me know the first two results, or the first two results you can see. If it's your LinkedIn profile, if it's your Instagram page, if it's your Facebook page, or whatever it is, you can just put it on the chat box. You just go to google.com, the main search box, search your name and your surname. And I think, okay, thank you. So please just chat it. You don't need to put something really extensive. Just is it the LinkedIn? Is it Medium? Is it your Google Scholar? Is it your research page? The first two results you can see, okay, Tekla and Manjuma can see your Instagram page. Okay, that's very, very good. So thank you, LinkedIn profile. So it's expected that a lot of us generally have our LinkedIn profile, then specifically Instagram. For those of us that are in the research space, you might want to see your Google Scholar or your ResearchGate or your, Helion profile and the likes. But then for mine, this is what I can see. And then why this is important is that your reputation matters a lot when you're applying for grants, especially when you're coming from an SDG focus. It's not as if you have an industry or a company that you're the only person working there. So, as young as we are here, you could have one particular grant, maybe have a group of 3 or 4 people, and you have projects. When it comes to grants, and this is specific for Africa, but most importantly for the Nigeria subcontext, for most of us that are familiar with the news, there's a new bank in the US called Mercury. It's just like just like Kuda like Kuda Bank here. Basically, what they do is that if you're a founder in Africa or Nigeria specifically, and you want to be able to position yourself for grants outside the country, or especially in the US, you can open a bank account there. So they made it a lot easier for you to have a US bank account all the way from Africa over there. And then it will be a lot easier in terms of compliance, as again going there to physically open a bank. But interestingly enough, we came across an article day before yesterday that said the bank has delisted Nigeria and some African countries from their platform. That means if you're a founder or you want to get a grant or you want to open an account through their platform for a US bank account, of which if you're to be able to get grants or funding, they can easily fund that account and then get access to you. As long as you're from Nigeria, your business is based in Nigeria, then you've been delisted per se. So these are just some of the new things coming up. And then from the discussions I had with some members of my team, we got to find out that a lot of ideas come from Africa, a lot of ideas come from Nigeria, but to an extent, there is a serious compliance issue. Somebody said Africa spends 50% of their resources following up on compliance. That means if you say your name is Obi, they have, okay, yeah, thank you. Oh, thanks. Yeah, thank you. Very, very correct. Mercury Bank, yeah, thank you. So please, I think another important thing is be checking the news. Okay, don't rely on old information. Even if you are deciding to check YouTube videos or online for some of these grants information, please, when you're doing your research, look for something within 6 months or at most a year. If you're watching a video that's talking about grants, don't look for something that's probably going to be 2022 or 2021 or 2020. Please, very important, be as current as you can. For me, for example, I presented this topic more than 3 or 4 times, but I have to especially take out time today to re-update my presentation to be able to make it fit into the current context. So most of these foreign guys, even the guys that give out the grant, when you are from Nigeria or from Africa especially, then because of the current climate we have, economy is bad, there are issues in Kenya, Uganda is having its own form of protest as well. Nigeria might be gearing up for us. A lot of things are not going on so well. The world is just somehow. So the need for people to raise money through any means is becoming very, very heated. During the COVID period, we saw a lot of scams going on whereby, disability benefits, health benefits, and the likes. A lot of things are coming up, and they said, okay, scam, 419, Yahoo, and all those other kind of things coming up. So specifically for the context of getting grants, it is important that you have a very, very strong online profile. That means the moment your name comes up anywhere, the first thing people will do is to go to Google and search your name. They'll search your name and your surname. Whatever you can see in the first page of Google is the same thing anybody in the world can see. And I would like to say, if you are not proud of the first 2 or first 3 search results, then it's very important that you at least start establishing a level of brand awareness, start establishing a particular personal brand for yourself. For the AIIDEV team, if I Google Emmanuel's name now, for example, most of us I'll see his LinkedIn profile, I'll see some stuff he has written, I'll see a lot of posts about AIIDEV and the likes. Very, very important. So the same thing I'm seeing is the same thing if AIIDEV wants to get funding from the US government next month. It's the same thing they will see from the team members as well. So please, like I said, this is very, very important. A lot of people that are giving out grants, in as much as they're giving out the grants or the funding to your business or to your initiative, but they're also giving out the grants to you. And one important aspect of grants is not about the pitch. It's not even about saying you've passed to stage 1 or stage 2. There's a special stage called the due diligence stage. This is the stage that they will go to your Twitter profile, they'll go to your Facebook profile, and go and check, okay, what are the kind of things you'll be posting? If they feel you've had ties or linked to terrorism, or you've had ties or linked to maybe some forms of abuse, or something unsavory about it that is online, the thing is, they don't want to be associated with those kind of people or you, and then they'll kind of dissociate themselves. Why? Most of the grants we've gotten at a particular stage when they're ready to make the announcement, and also very, very important that when you get a grant, you have to seek permission from the people giving you money to be able to make noise about it. I've had cases whereby somebody got an email that he was successful, he got a grant, and just to let him know, they'll carry him along in the next stage, and then the person wants to link him to post, and then they have to disqualify the person. So typically, most of these people want to organize or they want to coordinate how things are being done. That means if they say, okay, go ahead and post, then you go ahead and post. If they've not said that, you have to seek for permission to be sure that you have to do the right thing the right way. So I think that has really helped us in terms of some of the current things happening in our climate. So generally, what are grants? What are loans? For those of us that are Nigerians, a lot of us naturally feel grants are like somebody's dashing you money. Okay, if you're familiar with, for example, the Lumelu model of, I think, the $5,000 for your grants. At the end of the day, you get access to the $5,000 when you qualify. Yeah, they just want to check in. They give you 1 or 2 mentors to follow up with you. But at the end of the day, that money is for you to be able to effect some of the things you said you want to do. Some other grants want to be very, very focused, but the main language is that you are not, they are not giving you the money for free. You said you would do something, they believe that you were strong enough or you were marketable enough to do that, and then they give you funding. So it's up to you. Oh, no. It's not for Nigerians. I'm just giving some specific context. If you listen to what I said earlier, I've talked about Kenya, I've talked about Ghana and Uganda. So I'll be giving some relatable examples. So sorry if you feel offended. I'm just trying to make sure we can relate to it. So I'll make less use of Nigerian examples. Sorry about that. So when we're talking about grants, grants are non-repayable funds or products provided by grant makers. That means there's a grant maker. The grant maker is the person that says, okay, I have this grant available. If it's going to be, then don't worry about the examples you are seeing. You're still going to see some other examples. So please, let's just focus on the lessons I'm trying to give out. When you see some grants available, for example, if it's the Nigerian government, if it's the Kenyan government, if it's the Ethiopian government that's giving out the grants, or it's a corporation or whoever, they are called the grant makers. They made the grant available and they're giving it out. So that's a specific context. But grants are expected to be non-repayable funds. Grants are different from investments. If you have a company or a project, especially if the project is a project that is a for-profit project, not necessarily impact focused, but it's focused on making money or generating revenue intentionally. And you reach out to someone and the person says, okay, I'll give you $2 million for this project. I want to get what the return on investment is going to be and the likes. Those ones are naturally what we want to turn investment, especially they're naturally what we want to call investment, especially if it's something that they are expected to give feedback at the end of the day. So please, grants are different from investments. Grants are different from loans. Grants are generally non-repayable funds or products provided by grant makers. And generally, what do we need grants for? To fund projects, to fund research. There could be science-based research. There could even be specific SDG-based research. So most times, it's not as if you have to probably get a team and go to the community to do ABC. Sometimes it might just even be, I think I was at a pitch deck sometime last month, whereby they were talking about the cases of child abuse reports in Nigeria. It was an SDG-focused project. But what they did was that they did not necessarily focus on going out there to set up a project. What they did was to focus on more online and qualitative research per se. How did they do this? Studied Google Analytics to find out, okay, the basic keyword on Google was, okay, where can I report child abuse? Where can I report domestic abuse? Just generally looking at the use of keywords in terms of, I'm sure most of us are familiar with most of the Google Analytics. At the end of the year, they'll tell you the most searched name. Sometimes you might want to see it might be Trump, it might be COVID, it might be the war in Ukraine, it might be Ebola or any other thing. So they use that kind of system to find out, okay, looking at the context of abuse, spousal abuse, domestic abuse, child abuse, all forms of abuse and the likes. Then I say, okay, where can I report this? That was the keyword that they used. And then they checked and found out that, especially this was the context of Western Africa, they found out that, okay, they were able to say, okay, for this country, this is the volume or these are the numbers of people or numbers of requests coming in. From their research, they found out that a lot of people were looking for me. There were about almost 60,000 and 70,000 reports for a particular sub-region that said, okay, they were looking for, okay, how can they, where can they report some of these things? For those of us that are familiar with the shooting of Donald Trump in the US, part of the reports coming out from CNN now is that they've gone to go and check the search results or the search database of the guy that was, the perpetrator of the assailant, and they found out that, okay, he searched these people, he searched these people. So they use that kind of research form to focus on their project. So they have to focus on research that they could do online, and they're able to get good funding for that. Others might say, okay, yes, we're going into the community to do this. They could also get their funding. Some could even say, let us just start an initiative, an NGO movement. So grants could just be, okay, yeah, I'll still give tips on writing good proposals. So this is just generally an introduction to grants. Now, one important thing I would like to let us know is that the basic concept of proposals, and that's why my presentation is not necessarily going to be focused on proposals only. It's going to be focused on grants, but I'll teach you how you can prepare a proposal on the side. Although the concept of proposal that I think you are working on might not necessarily be what you will use for the grants. I've applied for a lot of grants, and it's not in every case that they'll tell you to submit a 3-page proposal for a particular grant. Let me give you an example. If you're applying for a job, It's not a lot of jobs these days that will tell you to send your CV and cover letter to this email. Why? It's kind of difficult to analyze, especially if they don't have an applicant tracking software or two. That means somebody has to sit down and be looking through those CVs one by one. At the end of the day, similar to LinkedIn, when you want to apply for a job, they'll tell you to go to their registration portal. If they don't have an application portal, they might work with maybe Jobberman or maybe recruiters or whatever. They could work with an outsourcing recruiting firm that have a template whereby you can register for it. That way, they'll ask you what's your name, you fill your name somewhere. The same things that should be on your CV, you have to fill it out one by one. This is your experience section. Fill out your experience, you fill it out, projects you've done, volunteer, achievement, and all those other things. So the same way job ads are being run, whereby you go to a website and they give you different boxes to fill. Yes, if you have a CV, it will help you to be able to copy and paste. But that is the same way grants are going. So if you look at the picture on the bottom right corner of the screen, it might not be clear, but if you're using your phone, you can just zoom in a bit. You see what looks like a general template. You could see, register, what is it about and all those other things. Generally for most, okay, let me just check that well here. So generally, when you're applying for most grants, they'll take it a platform. When you get to that platform, especially if you're applying for some United Nations grants or some of these USAID or international grants, this is what the platform generally looks like. There's hardly a case whereby they will ask you to upload a full document about your proposal. Most cases, when they're asking for documents, it might be if you have a company or a business that be registered, maybe the registration, the public or general registration documents. It's very important that you can have that. They could also ask you to upload your international passport. They could ask you to upload your pitch deck. Let's not forget your pitch deck. But it's in rare cases these days. For example, I'm currently consulting for an agri-tech firm based in Abuja. I'm in Nigeria here. We applied for we started 2 months ago. We spent 2 months, CAC for those of us in Nigeria, certificate. We spent 2 months. Okay, I was brought in to help them position themselves for grants. Notice, I did not say apply for grants. Positioning is more important than the application, although the application is the following stage. If you are deciding to apply for grants and I want to position myself, you might apply for 5 grants, but there's a high chance that you don't get it. I would take a month to a month and a half to prepare everything I need to prepare based on the knowledge I have. And there's a high possibility that even if I apply for a grant and I don't get it, I make a lot of friends. And that's what I want to explain to us. So we spent the first 2 months applying for grants. What did we do? We developed a concept of projects, 10 generic projects. We spoke to the CEO, spoke to the sales team, spoke to the community members, spoke to the customers, spoke to the farmers, spoke to all the stakeholders. For those of us in business, we call it design thinking. We spoke to, we said, if we were to even get money, who are those that benefit? The staff will benefit, our suppliers will benefit, the customers will benefit, the farmers will benefit. We mapped out all the stakeholders, prepared questionnaires, spoke to them and said, what are the needs that you need to, just generate a lot of stuff and say, at the end of the day, we said, if we were to work on projects, we developed the scope of about 10 projects, titles, and probably 1 or 2 or 3 paragraphs about the project I wanted to work on different contexts. The next thing we did, documentation is very, very important when it comes to grants. We said to open it's very, very good that you learn how to use some of these online tools. We opened the Google Sheets, that's like Microsoft Excel for those of you using Microsoft. We opened that and we had a list, I generated a list for them of all the things that they needed. For example, I've mentioned it, your registration documents is very, very important. Now I'm making this broad because I know that in as much as we're in this cohort, we might have subgroups, but probably tomorrow and sometime soon, this program will end and then we'll go back to either our companies or our businesses or even the initiatives we want to set up. So in terms of, do you have a registration document? Do you have an international passport as the CEO or the owner of the business? If your business has been on for a year or two, or your program has been on for a year or two, you should have been paying your tax to an extent. You need to have a tax identification number. You need to be able to have your audited account. For those of us in bigger businesses that have more audited account, that means, for example, you want to have a finance person to be able to work with you to help you clean up your books and all those things. So the most important thing is, and these things are stuff you could get on online research, get a list of all the documents that a typical grant will ask you for beforehand. Make sure you get them and keep. Imagine you stumble on a grant that they said the grant is going to expire on Sunday, and you want to start applying for the grant today, but you don't even know where your passport is. You're probably in Namibia and your passport is in Ethiopia. And then you're running around calling your wife or calling your neighbor to help you break down that, snap it, and all those other things. So anticipate everything you need to be able to get. It's like saying you're applying for a job. You need to have a good CV. You need to have a standard cover letter somewhere that I can edit. You need to have a good LinkedIn profile. You even need, for example, to even be following the company to have done your research and all those other things. So looking at the bottom right corner of my screen here, this template you are seeing is like you're filling a job ad. You know, you start first one to be your profile, your picture, stuff about you. Number two, be about the business. Number two, want to be about the project. But when it comes to the project, you can see 5 or 6 or 7 boxes that you have to fill. What is the name of the project? Which SDG area is the project? Which area is the project going to cover? How many primary beneficiaries? How many secondary beneficiaries? What's going to be the impact? And they've not asked you for the money. So all that proposal that is giving some of the money to develop 5 or 6 or 7 pages for the proposal, if you focus only on that, it's not going to prepare you for this particular stage. So most grants don't ask you to submit a branding proposal all the way. You have to break it down because they want to make sure you understand the proposal very well. And please, I think I'm going to share my slide with, I think, Emmanuel or the, oh yes, so sorry. I mean, I didn't make it to be too clear, but it's actually something I can actually check later. Sorry, that's not too clear. I just wanted to give you the template. So while you're taking a proposal as a document, a Microsoft Word document of 5 or 6 pages that you want to use to apply for your grants, people will ask you to submit those pages. This was what the template will look like. Okay, just like as if you're applying for a job. So throughout the course of this, there are some grant links that I put here. For example, you can see the African Development Bank, Youth Entrepreneurship and Multi-Donor Trust Fund, which is available, provides. So there are lots of grants available. You can see most of them. And I think, lest I mention, I think it's important I say this, is not every grant that is going to be, you're going to be eligible for. And you are not going to be ready for all the grants. At the stage of the company I'm consulting for, we saw some grants that had a lot of money. They were in our space, agricultural space and the likes. But we had a discussion with the fee and we mutually agreed that we were not ready for the grant at this stage. Because the kind of things they were asking for, we're not ready for that yet. So we started looking for, okay, what are the simpler, smaller ticket grants? So instead of even looking for a grant of $200 million, we said let's target grants that have a cap of about $50,000. Okay, something that we can actually work around little by little by little. One important thing, when you get the first grants, you can actually capitalize on that to get the next grants and get the next grant and get the next grants. So that small win is very, very important. In fact, it could even be that AIIDEV could say, okay, we have ₦1 million available for whoever the winner is and able to get that. You cannot capitalize on that to get continuous funding because sometime in future, when you're applying for more grants, they will ask you who else has given you money before. They want to be able to mention that. So it's again saying you want to target 150 million or 100 million grants. Start from the little one you can start. A smart way will be to start registering for, yes, thank you. Start breaking down little by little by little. Like I told you, we spent 2 months to prepare. We did not apply for a single grant. We even had to hire 3 members of our team, 2 interns. I was to train one on writing, I was to train one on research, and we had to get a market research officer. His own was to go to the rural area, speak to the farmers and the likes. So we spent 2 months to prepare, but by the time we saw our first grant apply, it did not take us 24 hours. We used our Google tools and all those things, and we applied very, very quickly. So I'm going to the next one. There are different types of grants. We'll talk about the types of grants, but at the end of the day, we're talking about grant makers. There are different categories. Everything I'm giving you is not 100%. You can go online there and win more than that. But when we're talking about grant makers are people that give out grants. If Dangote, for example, decide that tomorrow you want to have a Dangote family grant, it's going to be a grant maker and it falls under somewhere. So generally, removing individuals from the picture, we have individuals that are not aligned to anybody. But removing individuals from the picture, grant makers are majorly into governments, into foundations, and into corporations. So please, if my slides are too small for you, you can just, if I do your phone, you can just zoom in. If I do smart, you can just zoom in to be able to see them clearly. So when we're talking about government, there are national grants, there are local government bodies, there are intergovernment associations. For example, the USAID is a grant from the US government. German corporations also have their grant. Most of us are very familiar with GIZ and the likes. There could be grants from the French government. There could be a grant from the Nigerian government themselves. So most grants are Nigeria has some of these kind of grants available. So national agencies could actually have their own grants. This is grants that are specific for countries. Interestingly, most of the European countries and to an extent some Asian countries, especially China, Singapore, and Malaysia, they usually have a lot of grants for agriculture. So these are usually national grants, but can actually cover for international bodies and the likes. Then we have the intergovernmental organizations. Generally, this is now where you want to see, for example, most of those grants that I mentioned, GIC, United USAID, FAO, World Bank, and the likes. organizations that have a very, very large budget and they have a huge budget of which they usually give out grants. So when you're able to do your research a bit on these specific companies or these specific agencies, you can even get to understand their grants. I think another thing I also want to drop is, if you're interested in applying for any grant you see online, spend some time to research about that grant. The most important tip is, if people give out a grant, for example, if AIIDEV should give, let me say they started this program last year and 3 people won, and they gave 3 people 1 million naira each. There's somewhere online that they posted those people. If you want to target getting a grant for this cohort, for example, it might be smart of you to go back to historically to AIIDEV's pages and find out, okay, who are those that won this grant? You'll see their names. What kind of project did they present? Do your research. If you can, even reach out to some of them. So that you can ask you, okay, if you're planning for a 50 million tickets or this kind of project, and you say that, okay, as far as AIIDEV is concerned, these are the areas that keen into. One thing about grants is you have to position yourself towards the grant maker wants. If you World Bank said they don't want, because one of the grants you got is about $5,000 from World Bank, focus on the energy sector, mini grid, solar energy. If I said I wanted something that is powered by diesel or powered by fuel or gas, and I'm applying for that grant, because of the value of what I'm bringing in is not aligned to what they want, there's no one way to get that. So because of the research I've done, I found out that, okay, these guys are interested in the energy sector. Do I have a project in the energy sector? No. Does even any form of my project, is it going to benefit the energy sector or beneficiaries in any way? No. Then naturally, I don't expect the grant to be for me. I move to others. So please, very important as well. Then another group we have will be the foundations, private foundations. In fact, a lot of the people giving out grants are usually the private foundations. Bill and Melinda Gates. Interesting, I got to speak with some of their reps online through LinkedIn, and I got to find out that, Bill and Melinda Gates, most times they don't even have, they are a 100% grant making organization. In simple words, they give out money. They don't necessarily supervise 100%. So they are the organizations that give you money to do your project. There are some other organizations that they have to collect money to do their own project. There are some other organizations that they use their own money to do the project themselves. But Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, from my side, they're one of the, in fact, I think the sole foundation that contributes the highest amount of funding available for any program in the world. Okay, very, very important information as well. So their foundations, most of the NGOs, Faith Foundation, Tony Lumelu Foundation, I mean, they're private foundations. Some of them could actually work on that. This MasterCard Foundation and all those other ones. Some of them are into these ones as well. Then corporations also come up. Corporations is now where you're not looking for. Most of these foundations are usually either it could be from community, it could be corporates. Okay, particular company can decide to have their own foundation. In fact, MTN, Dangote, Sterling Bank, most of these banks, or most of the corporate bodies are having their own foundations. Some of them are not. That is where the CSR comes in, which is a bit different from the foundation versus the corporation one. Okay, MasterCard Foundation Scholars Program is especially focused on education. So it's an example of a foundation that gives grants to people depending on the context per se. Okay, then the third one is going to be the corporations. Basically, it could be direct corporate giving. You could just say that, okay, this bank or this company decided to just give out 50 million naira to this company or to this group or whatever. Example could be the Tony Lumelu Foundation and Entrepreneurship Program. That is being done by Tony Lumelu Foundation. The interesting thing is that, okay, let me not just go into that, but then some of the foundations are just, I have money, I have a Dr. Charles Foundation, and I'm using my money to give it to people that have projects. Okay? Then there could be the one that I have a Dr. Charles Foundation, but I'll not get my group of friends or get some people that are big in the space, some of my networks. Emmanuel could even be part of my network. I'll say, okay, I have a Charles Foundation, and then I want to be able to generate this fund for this program. I will contribute 10% of my money, and I get my friends or shareholders per se to contribute their money. And then we give it that. That's the kind of system that the Lumelu Foundation runs. So they're very, very big on accountability. So it's not only his money that he gives out. There are people that also contribute there to that as well. So there are lots of different types of grant makers. But the most important thing is to be able to, for example, if you want to apply for the Tony Lumelu grants, one of the things you can even do is to go online on YouTube, watch videos, do research to find out who won the grant last year. What kind of project did they do? Before 2020, if you wanted to apply for a grant in 2019 and you want to apply for a grant in 2021, they're not going to be the same thing. Because, COVID has generally changed our mindset. So because of time, I'm just going to just rush through this. This is going to be a bit wordy. But this is going to be, when you get this slide, this is going to be specific for a program. Why do we need grants? I'm just going to rush through it. They're innovative solutions to complex challenges. You could see something is very, very big, and then there's something little that you can actually do that's going to change the mindset or change something about that. For the, okay, let me not just give too much. I've been in a lot of pitches and I've heard a lot of ideas. I don't want to start giving out some people's ideas to all of us here. So another option could be to bridge funding gaps for critical projects. Another option could also be fostering partnership between organizations and sectors. For example, a grant, you might be in the, you have a project that's going to be energy focused. In fact, one of the important things is also when you want to apply for grants based on any particular sector, it's important that you start making a lot of friends. Remember, I told you one of the first things to do is to focus on getting a good brand. That means whenever people Google you online or check you out online, you'll like what they see. If I want to apply for a party, in fact, there's one particular grant the people I'm consulting with want to apply for. What I did was I got their LinkedIn page. Then we itemized the 10 names of the decision makers in that company. The CEO, Chief Technology Officer, Chief Finance Officer, the admin manager, the HR, the program manager, the head of marketing. We got the 10 decision makers. And what did we do? All of us followed the company. I mandated everybody in the company to follow them, and they will send connection requests to them. That means whenever we get to apply for anything, the moment they see our name, it rings a bell. For example, you're familiar with my name now, you're familiar with Emmanuel's name. If somewhere you're scrolling on LinkedIn or somewhere and see Emmanuel's name or AIIDEV, it strikes the bell faster than if you see a name that you've not seen before. So one of our focus is even if you don't get the grant, well, let us make new friends. Because one interesting thing is not most of the grants that you see online, just like jobs, it's not all jobs that are being posted. Networking plays a huge role. So sometimes who you know can actually be able to get access to some grants. They'll just be like, okay, Charles, in fact, in some of the places I've worked earlier, we've been reached out to an organization that says, we have this grant available. Please apply for it. When you apply, let us know. Same way with jobs, there's what we call headhunting. You are looking for jobs up and down. Meanwhile, some people are being told, that's happened to me. I could just get an email that says, hello, Charles, we have this position available. We feel you might be a good fit. If you're interested, kindly let us know when you apply. That's what is called headhunting. And a lot of duties comes with number one, positioning yourself as a brand on one point, and number two, establishing good networks. But because of time, there's also the Africa Renewable Energy Fund, which is available. If you have projects based on energy, solar power, clean energy, not using fossil fuels and all those other things and something like that, you can actually look into that as well. Then also, if you're looking at some of the, there are many SDGs available, about 17 of them, but some of the SDGs are very, very strong when it comes to grants. Most times, education is a very, very big factor. Everybody is usually keen on that. Then especially for sub-Saharan Africa, there's, let me just say Africa as a whole, including the Sahara part as well. Including Sahara part as well. We also have clean water sanitation, the SDG 6, and then in terms of climate action. In fact, education on one point, yes, those in agriculture space, the food and all those other ones work as well. But these days, there are usually lots of programs talking about climate. Anything you can do, recycling and the likes, anything you can do around that. There are lots of funding available for that as well. Then why is it going to be relevant for this particular program? Now you have projects, you need to be able to be aware of funding opportunities. Then also, you need to be able to know how to acquire skills of research. How do you want to research to find out these grants as well? Then it's also important for you to understand the global development. Where is the world going to? If you're talking about a grant that's focused on one particular area and everybody has moved away from that, you spend your time developing on that aspect. You remember there was a time, a lot of us, okay, let me not just go into that. The networking is also very, very important as well. I'm not going to take so much time on this. So this is an SDG program. Okay, I think I will assume most of us will know this, but let me just mention this particularly. So we have these amazing goals, SDG 1, SDG 2. We have, which one I focus on. I want to mention the SDG. Let me tell us something interesting. Okay, I did not put this slide, but this is something I can find out. I just got it from the United Nations website. Yes, there are 17 SDGs here. You can see the SDGs. Now, under each SDG, there are targets and indicators. I don't know how to call them sub-focus areas. So if you say you're interested in SDG that's talking about education, just saying that you're interested in SDG 1 or 2 or 3 is not enough. If you are going to present, in fact, if you're going as an SDG person to present anything, you're mentioning SDG, one of the key questions that funders or partners will ask you is, what are your sub-focus areas, what are the targets, and what are the indicators? I'm not going to go into this because of time, but in fact, if you go on there, quality education, there are probably up to 6 to 7 or 8 target areas that I can look at. Let me give quality education, for example. Access to technology devices can also be an addition. That is technology, but it's still providing quality education. Access to physical structures for schools, building schools, it's also feeding to it as well. It is not technology, it is actually infrastructure development. Okay. Access to, let me say light or water. I mean, they are lights and all those other things, solar power and all those other things. It's energy. It's not the same as tech, it's not the same as infrastructure, but it's focused on the educational sector. So one of the most important things is that when you're looking at an SDG, do your research, go to the United Nations page. You can see this particular picture on my left here, the one that has all the different colors. Look for your SDG, click on it. You will see the one on the extreme right that's talking about the targets and indicators. Look at all of them. They will tell you, okay, if you're interested in this SDG, these are the 7 targets available. And under the target, these are the indicators. So they can say, okay, if the world wants to get 300 million schools in the world, that means from the indicator, they said, okay, for each continent, we want to get about, let me say, 1 million, let me see about 500,000 schools in each continent or whatever. And they not tailor it down to say, okay, even if I come in with my project and we build 700 schools, our still is going to attest for indicator of maybe 0.1% or 2 or 3 or 4% of this goal, of this goal, of this goal. So not coming out to say you are aligned to SDG 1 or 2 or 3 is not enough. You want to go in deeper. Because even your problem, no matter how smart, even Elon Musk, with all the money he has not solved the world hunger as it today. Please, it's very, very important. So please do your research. I agree to see this particular screen. And there are many information you can actually get from this speech to even find out what has been done around. And I think another thing to note is research is very, very important. Even if I don't finish my slides, and which I'm still going to make available, research is very, very important. That's what we call case studies. There's no project that is going to be the first project ever in the world. That thing you want to do for Nigeria, that thing you want to do for Rwanda, that thing you want to do for Cote d'Ivoire, somebody else had done it already, maybe in Pakistan or Mexico or even in Netherlands. Do your research, find out what they had done or what they did, find out how they did it, find out the impact they made, find out the results they got, and then analyze the gaps. If you find out that, okay, what they did was that they did it in Pakistan, but maybe because of the the cultural differences or whatever about this or the challenge or whatever, you can now take that same. I mean, no idea is 100%. We're talking about Facebook, TikTok is coming out, Snapchat came out, and all those other ones. It's still the same multi-messaging platform, but they looked at, okay, what do these people not have, or what are they not doing well, and they let us focus on it and not beat it as a competitive advantage. So please, after thinking about your project or your SDG focus areas, do your research and find out who had done that same thing you want to do before. Find out what they did. It's very, very important when I'm talking about your research or your pitch and every other thing. Don't assume that you're the first person that is doing that thing. In fact, any informed grants giver or any informed partner will tell you to your face that they funded this project 2 days ago in another country. It's important to say, okay, this has been done ABC. That shows that you've even done your research very well. So please, this particular SDG focus area, I have to bring it out specially for us. So, for context, when I'm talking about grants, when I talk about proposal, when I talk about grant application, when I talk about grant proposal, they are still the same thing of different things. Remember that we established earlier that we are not taking a proposal as a 5-page Microsoft Word document. We are thinking of the whole thing as the point that when you click on the link you want to apply, they will take it to a portal that you have to be filling in things one by one. So I'm guiding us on some of the general things you should note. But then it doesn't mean your proposal is not good enough. Okay? When you're looking at your proposal, for example, these are some of the key things you want to look at. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on most of these things. You can even take a screenshot if you want. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because there are lots of materials online. You can go to YouTube and sleep on it for 1 week and you get enough materials. For mine, it's just from experience. I will give you access to knowledge that's from experience. I mean, we've got a lot of grants as some of the things you have to learn. So for typical grant proposal, most of the grants want to know, most of them want to know what is the executive summary of a project, generally from beginning to end. Tell us about the project. I have some slides of some recycle-based projects that I've worked on, that I got from the internet so that we can actually see what some of them look like. You want to know, okay, give us about your project in its entirety. It might be 2 or 3 or 4 paragraphs, so probably half a page, but something very, very small and concise. And then another important thing I also tell us is still develop a proposal with this kind of timeline. with this kind of design. But at the end of the day, know that nobody's going to ask you to submit that BAM as a whole. You have to not start taking that little by little. So instead of you to fill it, look at the an application and not thinking of what should I write, what should I write. The proposal is going to be like a data page. It's going to be like your handbag, which you now bring out, okay, they need problem statements. You have a problem statement, pick it out. Okay, they need it in 50 words. Your own is in 200 words. Summarize it. You can use AI or any other thing you want. But just summarize it, make sense, and you fill it in. So that's why it's going to be important. So this way we can do it faster. So I don't even want you to call it proposal. Just call it like an idea bank or a data room. All the information you want, you can get about your project. Just put them there. So generally, grant proposals, I'm looking at executive summary, background of organization, who are you, what have you done before, how long have you been in existence. I think the next slide is going to show some examples about this. Problem statement is very important. What is that problem that you want to solve? Because you're an SDG focused person, it's important to rely a lot on the SDGs. Okay, like I said, focus on the SDGs and say, okay, this SDG 1 is an SDG because of this, and these are the problem statements. Now contextualize it to your region, to your locality, or to your project area. If you're looking at setting up schools in Zimbabwe, in maybe a particular part of Zimbabwe as well, look at, okay, is this even a particular problem for these people? It's not enough to say that there's a hunger in the whole world. Meanwhile, the particular community you're even looking at setting up a project has one of the highest prosperity indices in that community. Imagine if you're looking at a highbrow area that rich people live in, and you're seeing that there's a problem about world food, hunger or something like that, and you want to establish a project in that particular place. Someone that's well informed to tell that hunger or food is not a problem for that particular population or that particular region. So please, let your prominence not be arbitrary. It should be well focused to what those people, your beneficiaries for that particular region really need. For importance, they generally want to describe a project in detail, talk about the goals and objectives of a project, talk about the methodology of a project. Methodology could mean, number one, there are 2 areas. What do you want to do? And then how do you want to go about it? For example, you want to do a lot of research. So case studies, doing your research to find out, okay, had it been done before and all so that. In fact, if you're looking at setting up a particular project in, let me say Morocco, for example, in a particular region, let me say Casablanca, for example, Morocco, you want to find out, has somebody else done this same project in Morocco? And all those other things, but because of time, I'm not going to spend much time. Talk about the timeline. There's a slide that talks about this. Your budget, a slide that talks about that. The evaluation as a municipal plan. That slide that talk about this. On the right corner, you see the different types of grants. Like I told you, there are lots of options. It's not all grants that must need a particular project. We have capital grants. You probably have a business or something like that, and then you need the grant to be able to start up probably a business venture. You have a training grant. It could be maybe somebody like me that I'm a trainer. I say, okay, I want to be able to train 5,000 youths on grants and proposals across Africa. And then I package it very well and apply. So I'm applying for people that say they have money to give people that want to train. If people that they have money to give people interested in the energy sector that are interested in building schools. If I don't change my project to say I want to train teachers, to position them as better teachers, and I still focus on that same one, I will not get it. So remember, this is me as a trainer. I have a general idea in mind. But when I want to apply for a grant, I will ask myself, what is it that the grant maker what do they want to fund? If they say they have a fund for out-of-school children in Togo, for example, and the project is in Nigeria, and you apply, there's no way you're going to get it because you not follow the instructions. So research is even going to be one of the most important parts of the grant. Cooperation grants, in fact, if you have a business, probably want to hire some staff, you want to work in the format of in terms of operations, you want to get vehicles, hire staff, salaries, and all those other things in terms of operations of a business as well. For example, maybe AIIDEV could say, don't have their own Zoom channel, don't have a mobile application and all those things. Those things are parts of maybe tech, but parts of operations as well. They can actually apply for grants. So the grant is actually helping them to become efficient. So in terms of that, they could say, okay, if our platform naturally could reach 200 people, by the time we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we can reach 5,000 people per se. That could be part of operating grants, but specifically, I'm looking at grants that are focused on that. The fellowship grant and scholarship grant are basically for most of us in the research sector. I've been in science-based research and the like. So if I'm applying for my PhD or all those other ones, scholarship grants are usually focused more on research aspects as well as academics. As well, like I said, so in terms of creating a compelling narrative, What is your grant application? And then one thing I'm not going to focus much on, but in fact, when you're applying for most grants, either in the grant application phase or in the final phase, they will ask you to submit a pitch deck. Sometimes they will not ask you to submit a pitch deck, but you have to come out to present your grants. Now, let me guide you. Let me go back to this. This is not 100%. This is just a template. There are various templates available. But one thing I'll guide you is open Microsoft Word or Google Sheet. Start dropping ideas on your project. You can use this format to any other template. Let me just call it table of contents. It could be in any template. It doesn't have to follow a particular format. Why? Because when you're filling the form, it could be in any format. Okay, in fact, you can look at the whole project and someone will tell you that summarize your entire project in just 50 words. And that is the only thing they will ask about your project. The rest of it is focused on your partnership and your LinkedIn profile and all those other things. So please open a Microsoft Word document or a Google Sheet. Don't use the sheet of paper, please, very important. Then get the table of contents and start answering it. For example, when the executive summary, you want to think quickly what the project I have, develop it and in fact, if you can make it up to 5 or 6 or 7 pages, that is important. But like I said, they are not making it because you want to submit it to somebody. They're making it such that when you need access to any part of your idea, okay. Oh, thank you. That's okay. I think AIIDEV has actually done this. I'm not going to spend too much time. So please, it's very, very important. Have all those things, break them down in that way. So whenever you're applying and somebody says, for example, it's just like saying you have your name, your surname, your middle name, the name your grandmother gave and the name your grandfather gave you. You keep them on the side. It's good. If somebody says they need only your first name, you just go there and take your first name and put in. They need your first name and your surname, you take it and put. So it's just going to be like a repository for you where you're going to work towards. Another important thing is that document is going to help you internalize your project. Somebody will come up to me and say you should spend the next 5 minutes to pitch your project, talk about your project. I think that one of the last 2 classes I did for another cohort, we talked about pitch deck, aspects of pitch deck, what to position, and how to prepare a pitch deck and the live. I'm just going to tell you some of the major things. When it comes to any project or grant, you want to be able to tell your story. Like I said, you're not the only person that has the idea. You're not the only person doing the project. Why is your project important? Was it that you went to school and then there was no light in your family and then you had to read under the street light, probably something you experienced? Was it that you had a neighbor that you're close to and then she wanted to give birth, but because there are no hospitals close by, there are no midwives close by, she probably died or the child died during childbirth or something like that? Was it that there was no good water in the community and then you saw kids drinking brown water from, why is the project important to you? You have to tell your story, not tell a story. You have to be a particular story about yourself. Either something you experienced, something you researched. The people that the group I talked about that give a pitch about the abuse story. The owner, the CEO, or the project manager. Okay, yeah, thank you. The owner, the owner or the CEO did not experience any form of abuse, but then a member of his staff, an intern, experienced that. And from the lady's story, they're able to say, okay, this is actually becoming too much. They said, let's even go online to check. And they found out that in as much as you think people are reporting domestic abuses, there are many of them that are not going on. And how did they find this out? Because they went to Google to go and check, okay, how many people are even checking for how to report for this? And then they got to find out. So the guy came out and told the story of a member of his team undergoing that and what they found out on Google. The moment he said all those things, all of us sat up. Yeah, no matter what he said later on, we already, because a lot of us have seen 1 or 2 or 3 forms of abuse or violence, and we've been asking, should we go to the police station or should we go online or should we call somebody or what? Okay, the one ever talked about why your project is important. The other important thing is how is it going to change lives? Something affected you. You don't want it to affect another person. Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Someone that affected you, don't want it to affect another person. So your project should be focused on solving a particular problem. If your SDG is a quality education and your project is to start up maybe lesson in a particular community, you want to maybe get a hall, or you want to use your father's garage, or you want to use a particular room, or whatever, you want to have an after-school lesson or something like that. Why is it important to you? Talked about that. How is it going to change lives? Maybe you have an interesting degree, or you took an extensive degree in early child education, or you know how to teach kids very well. Then to talk about, okay, schools are doing A, Mr. A did this, Mr. B did this. When I come in and do my project or you fund my project, this is how it's going to affect these people. They also want to make the person I present you to get in that, okay, all this I'm doing is actually going to, in fact, if you give me your money, it's going to add more value to you because you can actually post tomorrow and say, this project happened tomorrow because of this. So imagine, let me give a Starlink, for example, or let me even give let me just give Starlink, for example, Elon Musk's company, that they sends they are sending spacecraft and the likes to the moon or to Mars and the likes. So imagine if you were the one that gave them maybe even if 2 or 3 or 4% of the funding. Okay, you can actually boost tomorrow and say, okay, that satellite that's going up or that spaceship that's going up, I contributed to that. Okay, very, very important as well. And then use data and statistics. You can look at the right corner. All this information are not, I mean, you've not started the project yet, so we don't expect that you already have results to show. But data and statistics will show, number one, you've done research about SDGs, you've done research about even people that have done it before, and you position yourself well. So it's really, really going to help. Something like what you can see at the right corner of my screen might be something you've even designed on your own and said, okay, that from what you found that this and this and this are the things available. And then this is why your project is even important. I'm just going to rush through the many ones. Another important point again, you have a very, very nice project. But because you've done your research, you find out that Bill Gates is interested in eradicating malaria in Africa. And you have a program that says, okay, you want to educate people, you want to educate 5 communities on the importance of clearing their bushes, making sure there are no potholes, making use of mosquito nets, treating themselves early, and all those other things as well. If you're pitching to Bill Gates or pitching to Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, because it's one of the focus areas, then you want to study what they like, what they said they're willing to fund on their website, people they funded in the past, and position yourself there. That way, you're going to be saying not only what they want to hear, but what they want to give out money to. But if they say that they're interested in malaria, and then you have a solution for cholera, and they've never funded anything based on eradicating cholera, yes, it's a noble venture. Cholera is a disease that kills, I mean, it's something that it kills a lot of people. I mean, it's even affecting most people in it. It was very, very common in Nigeria. I mean, Nigeria recently and the like. So it was something we struggled with. It's very, very good. It's noble. It's going to save lives and every other thing. But it's not going to appeal to them because it's not their focus area. If you have one that is focused on HIV/AIDS prevention or eradication or something like that, but theirs is to fund malaria, no matter how you pitch it, it's not going to appeal to them. So that means you have a good project, you have a good pitch, you have a good proposal, but you are matched to the wrong grants. Okay. Okay, I think Tolu, please maybe just ask us a question. I'm not sure if I'm getting it, but then I think I'm going to talk about the budget part. So I think that should also cover that aspect as well. So another aspect I want to talk about is innovation and sustainability. If I will give you money for a project today, and they're telling me that after December, the project will end, and that is all, everybody will go home, it will not be appealing to me. While I'm considering your pitch, somebody to come and say, Charles, if you give me $1 million, for example, okay. Okay, yes, thank you. So for example, if you say, Charles, if you give me 1 million naira, I'm going to mobilize 2 or 3 members in my community and I'll train them on this project. By the end of the day, I might even travel out of the country by next year. But these 3 or 4 people I'll train, I'm sure that they will train more people and train more people and train more people. And you're not sure the fact that for the next 2 or 3 or 4 years, with just that first funding I gave as a seed funding, it's going to continue. I'll tell you that this is not the first time I'm working with AIIDEV. If AIIDEV had gone online to pitch somebody that we're just going to train 700 people at once and that is all, we'll go home. It's good, they're making something noble, but it's not going to be appealing to most funders because people want to see that they're going to be making a sustainable impact. So in terms of sustainability, they've told the person that I want to give them money that's okay. This is something that's going to continue. In fact, they're even going to be expanding and expanding and expanding and expanding. Very important as well. Then also in terms of innovation as well, AIIDEV could have said, AIIDEV could have said, we want to go to one community and gather the whole 700 people and train them. But they said, okay, we have options of using Zoom, we can use Google Meet. In fact, we can even include YouTube to ensure that we can train more than 100 people, which is usually the time limit for Zoom. You want to use technology, you want to use this and that, you want to use this and that. Very, very important as well. Then also show your passion for sustainable development. I think I'm going to share a very, very short story. I'm not sure if most of us have seen this, but I think I tagged Emmanuel on this. So on LinkedIn, there was an announcement made today that put my picture and said that I'm going to be the one making a presentation as a guest speaker today. You can go and check it after this or even check it now. Under the comment section, there is an SDG focus group. It's Europe-based. They invited AIIDEV. I'm not sure if any of the AIIDEV has seen it, but it's a very, very long text. They said they've been watching AIIDEV's impact projects for quite a while. and it has not gone unnoticed. They have a future award section coming up probably later in this year, and they want AIIDEV to register and be a part of that. All things being equal, AIIDEV might get an international award for all the work they've been doing. Now, it's very, very possible that they don't know who these guys are. But the fact that, number one, they have a sustainable model that has been working on cohort upon cohort, year upon year, quarter upon quarter, and they're releasing a lot of it, and their work speaks for them. People say, okay, I want to be a part of this. Remember, like I told you, the first thing, have a good brand. When people go online to Google you, they look up to, look you up, or they look up about your project. You want them to see the fact that, number one, you've been doing, and now, yes, I think let me just digress a bit also. Don't wait till you get money before you start making an impact. If you have a project that says you want to get $500,000 to train kids in a community, one of the things they will ask is, between now and the moment you get the money, what have you been doing? If you maybe say, okay, you want to work with teachers, or you want to start a holiday lesson, you want to do something on a volunteer basis, or you want to look for people that are doing this kind of thing, you have to start working with them, or do something so that you can even start developing a bit of to say, okay, this is where we want to go, but because we don't have money, these are the little things we've done so far. It could even be as much as doing as much research and just packing as much, or probably even posting them on LinkedIn, on Medium, or just publishing a report and all those other things. But don't be lazy. Between the moment the money comes to you, versus now that you're even having the idea, what actions have you taken between now and then? That's how I might not have gotten funding, but I can use my resources or whatever to start up something, even though I'm not being paid for it. And I have a year worth of pictures, a year worth of impact. So to see that you have an amazing idea better than mine, but you're waiting for funding to come in. By the time you're pitching and I'm pitching, you'll be saying more of, this is what I want to do when you give me the money. I'll be saying, despite for the past 1 year, you've not gotten enough funding, but these are the things we did. If you have the money, who would you want to bet your money on? It's more like saying about experience, just like you want to apply for a job. You finish school and you're waiting because you had maybe a first class. Meanwhile, someone that probably had a second class had gone to volunteer for 5 or 6 or 7 organizations for 1 year. So that way he has 1 year worth of volunteer experience, which translates to intentional experience, while all you have is just a school education. So please, it's very important that we become as busy as we can be. So I think if you look at my next slide, I don't know if this is going to be very clear, but I just try to mumble it. This is from a pitch deck presentation of a company that they are SDG focused. Their own is to, it's focused on renewable energy. Theirs is to be able to, they're into garbage collection and recycling. Okay. They are not into 100% garbage collection. That means they don't just go and empty your dustbin or your garbage for you. They are focused on the biodegradable one on one side, and they are focused on some specific ones. So that means if you have maybe some of them might say, okay, they only want plastics. So they'll give you a special dustbin. They only come to your house and collect only the plastic because they want to recycle. Another group might say, okay, they want the food waste or the organic waste. Maybe vegetables that are cut off, part of maybe meat or maybe head of fish or some parts of food product that you have to throw away, but something that could actually decay or can be used for something else. Probably once in a while, they come to collect it from you and then they get to recycle it as well. Okay. Yeah, so a very important question that someone just asked. Please, when it comes to data, it is usually recommended that you don't go beyond 5 years. In fact, I would recommend, please, anything before 2020, don't even try to touch it. The world has changed intentionally from 2020 to date. In fact, even in academics, we're talking about AI, we're talking about renewable energy, we're talking about newer things are coming up. We're even becoming very, very data sensitive. So the fact data analysis and data whatever was not a big thing 2 or 3 years ago. For the past 2 years, it has been a very, very big thing. That means a lot of people have intentionally gone into the data space. And now we're not just relying on academic or scholarly publications. We now have companies that are putting out lots of data out there. So even given an excuse that 2008 or even 2015 was the best you could get, it might make it look like you're lazy. So if possible, limit your data search or your quotes to be something between 2020 and dates, which is usually 4 or 5 years gap. Yeah, I might say 5 years. 5 years might fall into 2019 or 2018. But the way the world is thinking these days, please let it not go beyond 2020. In fact, if you can even make it from 2021 to date, you need to show a bit of intentionality. Except if maybe what you want to do is to compare, do a comparative analysis of what's happened in 2008, what somebody wrote in 2008, what somebody wrote in 2015, what somebody wrote last year, and then make your reference. But if you want to depend on a particular statement, maybe the population of the world on the number of out-of-school children and all those other things. United Nations, UNICEF, World Bank, and these guys, they release articles, newsletters, and annual reports every year. So you can actually get some of this. So please, when you're using data, don't go beyond 2020. It should be from 2020 to date as well. So this is just their own pitch deck. On their own pitch deck, remember I've talked about the grant proposal and the likes. Okay, they have an about us section. Okay, they've been in existence from from this year to this year. These are the things they've done as well. They have their value proposition. So you want to say, okay, if your project has been, if you've been doing your project for the past 2 or 3 years, 2021, you set up a project. What did you do? What are the 1 or 2 or 3 milestones that you did? Did you hire staff? Did you get a new bidding? Did you get a first customer? 2022, which is the next year, what were the major things? You did your first project, 200 beneficiaries, you got an international award, all well and good, 2023. That's how you can logically flow. So most of those things you would have put in text, they put it in text and also have a pitch deck for it. So you can actually see what the picture version will look like also. And then in terms of services, it could be a for-profit business, it could be a particular project and the likes. What are the things you want to do? Let it be logical. Look, at the end of the day, you want to train kids in school. Then ask yourself, from the moment of saying you want to train kids in school to the moment you actually train, we call it, most of us are in sciences, we call it the HACCP principle. Probably want to call it the flow chart, or maybe the hazard analysis and critical control points. For those of us in sciences, that's what we call it. You want to travel from here to the United States of America. What are the things you need to do to get there? Number one, of course, you need to want to travel. Number one. Number two, you need to have an international passport. Number three, you need to apply for a visa. Number four, you even need to have a reason for going there. Number five, probably want to get a letter of invitation. You know, all those other things. You want to book your flight, you want to pack your bag, you want to book a taxi cab that take you to the airport, you want to book your hotel. All the things that will make sure you move from the point of I want to go to the United States to the moment you get there. Those are logical flows or implementation frameworks. What you do this to get it, till you find yourself in the United States. When it comes to a project, you also have to have a logical flow of how you want to do it in terms of the methodology. You want to write a letter to the governor. You want to go to the university to talk to some university groups. You want to look for the association of teachers. You want to talk to some of the refuse collectors to know what they're doing. You want to look for recycling agencies. You want to, so like you can see here, it might not really be clear. Sorry about that if it's not really clear. But these are just some of the step-by-step processes that they took. And then at the bottom section, they had their problem statements, and then they had their deliverables for the solution. So for your project, your pitch deck, or whatever you're doing, everybody wants to ask, what is the problem, or what are the problems that your solution is going to solve? Not to mention the problems first. It's very, very smart. Talk about the problems in alignment with the SDGs. But don't just say SDG 1 or 2 or 3. Look for the target areas and look for the indicators and pick them. So you're going to be very, very specific. Okay? So after identifying your problems, please, when you're talking about your solutions, they should speak to the problem. If you're talking about the fact that girls do not have access to sanitary pads, for example, and you want to be able to probably set up a supply chain network that manufacturers of sanitary pads can actually ship it straight to the school, maybe the school warehouse, and then they can be distributed to girls. Okay, the problem is access of sanitary pads and all those other things. Your solutions should speak specifically to that particular problem or to those particular problems you've itemized step by step. Don't say problem, lack of education, lack of awareness, lack of this, bam, this is what you want to do. Please, it should be very, very logical. 3 problems, 3 solutions, and solution 1, speak to problem 1, 2 to 2, and 3 to 3. Please, very, very important as well. And then let me just go over to, for example, if you are really interested in the climate change. So I just got some samples of some pitch decks of some people that have actually pitched in the past and gotten some awards to show us an example. Let me just focus on, and let me say the third one. These guys were interested in, they were concerned with the problem of deforestation, the climate change, CO2, and all those other things like that. And they said, okay, they've itemized their problems. What are the solutions they're going to be looking at? I'm going to round up. I think time is almost off. So they said, okay, they had 3 major solutions. Okay, number 1, plant a tree and get a gift. Logically, how did they flow? Now, I'm looking at the right-hand corner of my screen. Buy a plant. You can buy a plant from all those people that sell plants, or you can probably, whatever, plant it anywhere. Share, in fact, you can even take a picture. This is your plant beside you. Take a picture with it and share it with them. They feature it, or maybe on their website, and then maybe they send you money or they send you a certificate or something. So imagine if now they would have said they wanted to plant 2 million trees, but it would have been, how do I put, logistically per se, or operations-wise, it would have been very, very challenging for them. In fact, why can you even get 2 million trees? Who is going to give you that land to plant? So they innovated around the idea and said, okay, we want to plant 2 million trees, but we don't want to do it ourselves. How can we do it? Perhaps they got someone that gave them $1 billion, and they said, okay, we're going to give, thank you, brother. We're going to give about, if you plant a tree, and in fact, they could even tell you that the day you plant the tree, they give you, maybe they give you +1 mark. You go and check the tree after 1 month. The tree has grown to an extent, it's protected, nothing has eaten it up, nobody has cut it up or something like that. They'll give you +2. They could even tell that maybe at the 7th or 8th month after planting the tree, they could give you like 100,000, maybe your country's currency. I don't see. Maybe they could give you like $50 or $100 and the likes. Because they planned it this way, they can actually achieve planting 1 million trees. So remember, Group A would have said they wanted to look for a rainforest in order to go to Sahara Desert and plant 1 million trees, which is still good. But that would have taken a lot of effort and a lot of money and a lot of time. People would have said, we want to plant 1 million trees, but we want to make sure we don't do it alone. So they can say, we want to mobilize 1 million individuals to plant 1 million trees. I'm sure you're thinking, I remember my slide that talked about sustainable plans, sustainability, and innovation. Now, because of the fact that, and then in fact, you can even go further and say, okay, because I brought up an idea to make sure 1 million people plant 1 million trees, you can even make it that stage 2, and I mean, for each person that plants a tree, by the time the tree clocks his first birthday, that is, the tree has reached 1 year, you are encouraged to get 5 more people to plant 5 more trees. I cannot continue to change, just like saying multi-level marketing. Get 1 person to get 2 people, to get 1 person to get 2 people, like that. So please, whenever you're thinking of your ideas, like I said, when you do case studies, you're not the first person that bring up the idea. Looking at it, if you had an idea to plant a tree, for example, I'm sure I'll give you a lot of ideas. Think outside the box. Find out what have other people done before. How did they do it? What did they get? How were they rewarded? If I want to do what they did, how can I do mine differently in the context of my community? If somebody planted a tree in Sahara Desert, for example, and somebody is going to come plant a tree in Amazon, it might not be received the same way. Amazon has a very, very large it has a very, very large vegetation. In fact, most of the species that we are looking for, they're out there. Sahara Desert seemingly doesn't have much going. So your project is going to be more impactful in Sahara Desert than it's going to be in the Amazon rainforest. Please, very important as well. For example, the second one said, clean your local area, post before and after. There was this community that said, in terms of potholes, the local government, or let me say the mayor of the town, said there are too many potholes. They don't have the resources to start sending agents to clean up and that. Okay, yeah. For those of us that are very, very active on Twitter, there is this educational building in Nigeria, I've forgotten the name, that somebody was passing through and just made a video. A picture, and said, this is a building that's supposed to, I don't know if anybody can remember, just put it on the chat box. This building is supposed to be in charge of examinations for secondary school students in Nigeria. But they're based in this state in Nigeria. This is what they look like. It doesn't look good. The paints are falling off. A lot of things are not looking so well. And the person just posted it on Twitter. And within a space of a month, another person posted the response and got a newer picture that said, because of your tweet, my dear, they had repainted the building, renovated it. It looked so good. They changed the gates. In fact, they tarred the street and changed it. It looked so good. That can even be another idea that says people use the before and after photo. I want to reach this particular community, but I cannot do it alone. Okay, let's assume Lagos, for example, is a state in Nigeria that has a problem with clogging of canals. Okay, as against even saying, okay, let the government start getting vehicles or what if you say, okay, come up with a challenge. You want to get maybe the state has, maybe the canal passes through, let me say, 20 communities. And the government now set up a project that says, 2 or 3 people to come up with an idea, generate an idea, an impact group that says, okay, then you divide the canal into 20 and say, okay, the canal that passes through communities, get up a group and clean only that aspect of the canal, send a before and after photo. In fact, even work with the recycling agency and like, if you get it or whatever, we give you funding for that. So there are many ideas you can go around this. I've just told you how you can sit down in your house and innovate around a lot of these things. This AIIDEV is basically virtually done. But as they're here, they can even do something. There's one cohort that they did that. The participants had to go to different schools in different countries to teach people to do 1 or 2 or 3 things, took videos. And in fact, LinkedIn was, because I took that training. So a lot of people are tagging me, thank you for this and that and that. So from just the team sitting down on their laptops, wherever they are in the world, they generated an idea that led from something virtual to something physical that had a higher level of impact. So please learn how to think outside the box. Okay, very important. Looking at the budget aspect, don't assume that you're a financial expert. The budgeting for grants is a bit more technical than you might assume, than you might imagine. Okay, still follow the guidelines given by the grant making organization. So people will tell you, for example, there's some grants I've applied for. All they want to know is how much do you need, how much will be your expenses, how much will be your miscellaneous. Simple. Someone will tell you, especially if it's grants that want to give you money to make sure you want to make money, how much do you need? What are the 4 top things that will take your expenses, categorize your expenses, and how much will be your return on investment after 1 year? So same thing proposal. Don't assume that when they ask you for budget, you're going to start drawing up a budget. Some grants will also give you a template. They'll give you a downloadable Excel format, and they'll give you guidelines. Some grants will give you an Excel format that has formulas in it. All they'll tell you, just fill in the red boxes. Once you fill in the red box, it automatically calculates it in a dashboard. So I'm not going to give you a general envelope of what the budget should look like. But please, even if you're applying for grants and you don't have money, 2 friends you need to make. Number 1. No, 3. You need to have a mentor. Okay, it might be a consultant, it might be probably somebody senior to you or somebody very, very experienced in a particular field. Number 1. You need to also have somebody good in tech. Because sometimes some of your solutions might actually need an angle whereby you need to develop a tech product. A tech product doesn't necessarily mean a mobile application. It might mean a WhatsApp feature, it might mean a WhatsApp community guideline, it might mean anything. But you need to have someone that is very, very good with tech as your friend, so that if you are like, hello, I have this idea, I need you to help me look at it or whatever, they can help you streamline it to make sense to somebody that has a grant that is looking at people that have a bit tech-friendly solution. Okay. Then the third part, somebody good with accounting. Very, very important. This person is going to be an asset. Do not assume that you are good at mathematics or you even have maybe you've done that before, whatever. It's important to understand the guidelines of some of these guys that that are applying for their grants and follow what they said. If you're looking at the screen, you will see a typical example of what some grants will look like. Some of them asking you for project design, project development, project delivery. Design could be in terms of the task. You want to go to the community to talk to people, talk about logistics, you want to do your research, you want to gather some resources, you want to maybe gather people and train them, you even want to do maybe a multi-stakeholder platform to discuss the needs and the likes. Development might not talk of, okay, how the project is going and all those things. So there are different levels. I mean, this is not really clear. So why I'm putting this is not for you to just see what it might look like, but for you to have an idea of what some of these might be asking. Some might say, okay, in terms of labor hours, for example, they need people to work 2 or 3 hours a week. Some might ask you that they need a good level of gender balance. So they might even ask you, okay, some of them might even ask you to talk about how many people are going to work on the project, how much are going to pay them. Some might say it depends on the various contexts of that. But the most important aspect is follow the guidelines of the people that are giving the grant. So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. But on the left side, you can just see some of them. Some grants will tell you that they have $2 million available for whoever wins the grant. Some grants will tell you that they have a pot or a bucket fund of $2 million. A bucket fund means you are not going to get that $2 million if you win. They might say they are looking for 12 winners, but they might say they're looking for 10 winners, but they have a bucket fund of $2 million. Let me say $1 million, for example. You might not naturally do your mathematics and say, okay, 10 people, $1 million. That means each person will get 100,000. And then you work towards, no, not necessarily. We got a grant in 2021. It's a Feed the Future USAID grant about, I think, $165,000 back in 2021. It was a pocket fund. Well, we got 165. Some people got 300,000. Some people got 50. Some people got 20,000. But it's still a bucket fund. So it's based on the project you have. So most times I just advise, in as much as you're looking at the money that is available, let your project or your budget be realistic. Because they have $100,000. You don't necessarily have to exhaust that. You don't necessarily have to go below that. You don't necessarily have to go above that. It depends. Some grants also, I think it's important that I also talk about this. Some grants also say that they want you to match the funding. Match funding means they could tell you that your project, they have $100,000 available for the grants, but that is going to be 60-40% matching basis. That means they give you $100,000, but that $100,000 is going to only be 60% of the total amount of the fund or for the project. That means the other 40% you have to provide it yourself. And that means you have to now look for how was I going to generate funding for that. Because when you're applying for that, so most of these are going to be listed on the grants. So sometimes when you're looking at the grant, they tell you the type of grants. Some can just be a general grant, angel grant or whatever. Just take the money and do whatever you want. Some might be pocket fund and all those other ones. I don't want to go into that. But when it comes to grants, I mean, looking at the budget aspect, realistic and detailed budgets, direct and indirect costs, gets another important thing as well. Focus a lot of yes, you get the presentation slide. I think I will send before I leave, I'll share my LinkedIn page as well as the view format of the grant, of the slides. So you can even click on the links I put there to get access to them. So I'll just share it with you. Don't worry, you get that. So if you have a project that you're applying for, especially for the African context, sometimes a lot of companies or people get grants and next thing you're doing is they're buying a car or they're getting married or they are taking their wives or their girlfriends or their husbands or their boyfriends or anybody around them to the Bahamas or somewhere to go and play around. So in terms of compliance, people are beginning to look into where your money is going to. You have a project that you want to train 500 teachers in Lesotho, for example. Okay, in the capital of Lesotho, you want to train 500 teachers. But meanwhile, a bulk of the money is going to transportation and feeding and hotel for your team and yourself. But the general beneficiaries of that project are the 500 teachers. So when I see that or when they look at that, it means a bulk of your project is going to the operational side and not necessarily in terms of the beneficiaries. So those are some of the things you want to balance. Because I need that once you get a grant, you've made it in life, you're a big boy, a big girl. Most of these foreign grants, especially, are big on accountability. So sometimes you have a very, very good story and everything, but your budget is going to show that you just need the money to fit some particular needs, and then they're not going to give that to you. So the third point says, explain how you efficiently use the funds. If you have somebody that's good in accounts with you, the person is going to help you categorize some of these things as well. Another important point, please. I'm going to ask you, have you gotten funding as an initiative or as an individual yourself? Yes or no? Number two, has your project gotten funding before? There are two separate questions. My name is Charles. I have a project to teach to train 500 people online. Have I gotten funding to train 300 people in the farm? Yes. Have I gotten funding to train 500 people online? No. So this project I'm presenting to them now is about the training of 500 people online. But me as Charles, have I gotten funding for another project in the past? Yes. But have I gotten funding for this particular project I'm presenting to them now? No. It means two different things. Number one, I am fundable. For the fact that somebody has given me as an individual funding to do another project before, means I passed through some of the due diligence stages. And they're like, so, okay, this guy has got the funding before. She has done the work before. But for this particular project, we are the first people he's pitching to. Sometimes some of them might even ask you, who else have you pitched this idea to? Okay, if your idea is so good and so amazing, they want to poach you, they want to steal you, and they want to make sure they don't even pitch it to another person. They want to post and say, we're the one that introduced this. So imagine if you Mark Zuckerberg was pitching Facebook to you in the past, and you now hear that he's pitching it to Microsoft, and you have all the money. You want to cover every form of angle, every form of that. So please, in terms of how much you've gotten, any kind of support you've gotten before, note it very, very well. Just like if you're applying for a job under the United Nations, and they're asking you, do you have any relative in the United Nations that's working? And you say yes. He's being honest, but they're not going to get that job. Because part of their policy says they want to be fair. They don't want any option of corporate nepotism. Your father will hire you and his wife and your mother and all those other things. So if you have somebody working there, you're not going to get the job. Some of this funding might actually even mean that, but I think it's up for you to be very, very honest and open because you don't know why they're asking that question. If you've gotten funding in the past, they can even find out why. All they need to do is to Google your name. If you don't even post it about yourself, whoever gave you the money will post it about you. They will know that you're lying. They won't even bother checking in with you. So the fact that you've gotten funding as an individual before in the past is good. The fact that if you've gotten funding for this project, in fact, if you say, okay, the project is going to need $200,000, African Development Bank give you $50,000, you need $150. The US said they have money available. You are pitching to them. You want to mention that your project ticket is going to be worth about $200,000, but African Development Bank has given you $50,000. That tells number one, you're being proactive. You've even gotten a level of funding and you've done a lot of okay, yeah, in the situation where you're asked how long has the problem been or why is the problem, okay, I'm still going to talk about that. Yeah, the why now is even a very, very interesting question for most fund. They're like, okay, why is the project even coming up now? Why is the solution coming up now and all those other things? Number one, we can't always do enough. Elon Musk has probably all the money in the world, or is it the Microsoft guy that is, they said is a shareholder at Microsoft that's now Richard that biggest or whatever. But even despite all the money they have, they're not going to push it all to that particular problem. So your why now doesn't necessarily mean that you're focused on the whole picture. If they said they want to electrify the whole of let me say the whole of Namibia, for example, but the community in Namibia does not have light. But the capital of Namibia has light, other places have light, but your community does not have light. Why now can just be the statement of the government said they want to electrify this by 2030. Till 2024, there's no light in your community. Agriculture is affected, education is affected, feeding is affected, security is affected. The solution is to offer a solar-powered solution, solar-powered light and all those other things like that. So why now means there's an urgency for your country to be electrified in the next 6 years. But as at now, your community does not have light, and they cannot wait to be on the list, and they want to wait to be 2030. So your project is going to make sure that they can join those that have been electrified, that have been electrified already. So that one now adds a sense of urgency. But how you explain it, the governments are always going to persist. But remember, like I said, your solution is not going to affect the whole world. It's going to affect the particular beneficiaries in your community. A lot of people are doing scholarship for children. There are many scholarships out there. But there's still lots of children out of school. If you're looking at your particular local government or your mini community or even your state or your town and say that, okay, you want to offer scholarship to 10 children, why now? A lot of people are doing it. But the children in your community, in fact, you can even say that it's only 2 people that have got a scholarship in your entire community. So it's just how you explain that that's very important. So going back to so please, like I said, if you have questions, just ask. I'll just get and answer that because of time. I'll be done in the next 20 minutes. So demonstrate other sources of support. Yeah, okay. So show value for money and cost effectiveness. Yeah, like if you work with a finance person, it's good to make sure that you're working around that. Also, please, when you're working with exchange rates and dollar values, let me use Nigeria because I'm in Nigeria here. So please, if you're in another country, just use it for country currency, but I'm going to hinge it to the US dollar. Currently in Nigeria, we have, I think, about, let me say, 1,650 naira to a dollar. That is our exchange rate. If I'm applying for a grant and I'm filling the funding aspect, some grants will ask you to specify. But what I usually do is that I usually put on the Google Sheet, I put an asterisk and say, if I'm asking for $200, the $200 exchanges to $200 times 1,650 naira, and I get the naira value to be $200 to 900,000 naira. And then I put the exchange rate is $1 to this amount. And then I get it from an official site. It might be the Nigerian government official site. It might be from a black market site, but sometimes it's recommended that, okay, thank you. I'll talk about the ceiling part. It's recommended that you work with something from the official site. So I'll probably get it from the central bank, which is the chief regulatory agency for currencies in Nigeria. So I'll get $1 to 1,650 naira. That's the exchange rate from the CBN website. And I'll put the dates. Please, you can check online and find out the exchange rate of the of any currency at any particular time in history. So that also helps very well. It's a bit technical, but please know the dates, the exchange rates, and the exchange rate amounts, and the sites are getting it from. It will help you because sometimes if you apply for a grant today, it might take them 6 months to review the grant. So imagine the exchange rate goes up to 2,000 naira, for example. When they're looking at it, they can now understand that the context that Charles worked with was at this particular time on the 24th of July, 2024, which will be a lot easier to work around. And then finally, in terms of budget, consider including in-kind contribution. I worked with my team and applied for US government funding. And they asked, okay, in terms of what you need, you ask, do you need it in cash or in kind? Be explicit. Please, you don't always need money. If you're going to work on a training platform, okay, and then, okay, expenses, accommodation. Okay, yes, please. So in terms of the expenses and all those things, if you can look at this budget, it's not clear. But some budgets we put out, they probably put direct cost, indirect cost, personnel cost, and all those other things. They are going to be specific. There's even a United Nations grant I applied for that. They said, okay, in terms of accommodation, how much, how many people, how many times? In terms of flights, they even booked transportation into road, into flights, and into personnel. Am I flying as the project manager? Is anybody from my company flying? If you're getting facilitators, are they flying? If the participants are coming, are they flying? So some can be explicit, some cannot be. But like I said, this is kind of a bit technical. If you work with someone that's good with finance or has a bit of finance background, they can help you categorize it based on what the grants maker had asked you for. So like I was saying earlier, in terms of in-kind contribution, okay, I want to train 500 people in a particular community. I can ask for $100,000 US. Okay, I can ask for $100,000 US. And then if they say that they have access to in-kind support, I can also ask them for a facility or a structure to do the training. Imagine if a typical structure is going to cost me $20,000 US. And because it's part of the in-kind contribution I need, USA, they can just call the people they know and say, Charles is one of our grant winners, and he needs this project in this community. Give him that office. I need a vehicle. Instead of even saying I need a brand new vehicle, some grants to give you the option to even talk about the in-kind support you need. I need the 2 18-seater buses. Instead of asking for a huge amount of money to buy the buses, by the time I list it as an in-kind, whatever, they can even call some of their partners or their logistic partners and say, release 2 buses for this guy for this time to this time. So please, some grants will ask for that, some will not. But just have it in mind as a possibility. So you don't always need money. Sometimes it might even be access to the international marketing space. I need an advert. Or for example, AIIDEV, I could tell AIIDEV, pay me $200 for this training. Or I could tell AIIDEV, I don't want your money, but please put my picture, just like they did on LinkedIn, put my picture with my write-up and everything about me on all your social media pages. I can get the $200,000 and I fly to Ibiza and I spend it out there. But that other option that they give is worth more than the money to an extent. Why? Because it makes a lot more people know that I'm a trainer and I've already trained on a good platform like AIIDEV. So please, it depends on, like I said, it depends on what the grant makers are asking for. I think I've spent a lot of time in most of these topics. So these are the most important parts. So in terms of if you want to research for grants, how do you even get to know which grants are available? These are just some of the sources, some of the top 10 grants available in Africa. I think, but this Nigeria, I don't know if there's some in Nigeria, there's some in Africa as well. You can just check this to get access to how you want to get access to grants. Then let's not forget, geographic relevance is very, very important. Please, you're not eligible for all the grants. If a grant is only for women in South Africa, and you have a grant for men, or you have a grant for girls, if the grant is for women between the ages of 30 to 50 in South Africa, I have a grant for girls in South Africa between the ages of 18 to 30, and you apply, there's a high chance you will not get it. Geographically, it's relevant, but in terms of the demography, it's not relevant. So please, these are just some of the key things. So please, when I apply for grant, like I said, the research part is the most important aspect. That way you can put all your energy to what you have a higher chance of getting. So some of the things to just avoid in terms of applying for grants, please always follow application guidelines. Very important. If a job, for example, a friend of mine was applying for a job on LinkedIn. It was on Easy Apply. For those of us that are familiar, Easy Apply, just click on it, put your name, your email, your phone number, your location, upload your CV. How many years experience? 2 years, 3 years experience, and I send that's all. The job was posted, they had an Easy Apply feature. But when she sent the link to me to check for her, and I read through, I found out that under the description of the job, they had an Easy Apply feature, but under the description of the job, they put it there at the bottom. Do not click on Easy Apply. For you to apply, send an email, with your CV, the cover letter, and 1 or 2 or 3 portfolio to this email address. I checked that job and it was posted in the past 2 or 3 hours, but over 100 people had applied. And I can bet you that a good number of them clicked on Easy Apply and they applied because they did not go through. So paying attention to this, it was just 2 lines, but it was at the bottom end. In fact, I have to click on read more before you get to that. So please, when you're applying for grants, you see the same thing. Please follow the application guidelines. I can always find, in fact, for the team I work with, it's not just one person that works on grants. I have 2 interns that research all the grants. They can get 5 or 10 grants. They list the grants in one particular Google Doc. So a Google Sheet, the name of the grants, who is the organization that's given out the grants, when is the deadline of the grant, the application link of the grant, how much is the grant available, okay? And then also when they are done with the 10, myself and their senior manager will review the 10 and then we shortlist 5. 5 from the look of it, for example, based on the deadline, the kind of grants, and also the country relevance, the geographic relevance of the grant. So we use that sheet, that table, they do all their research online and they get that. So if you have someone that can work on that. So from the 10, shortlist to 5. Out of that 5, the interns will now go ahead to now research on those 5 grants and give me a half-page report that says this grant is done by the United Nations agency for maybe USAID. They've been giving the grants to countries in Africa. Nigeria is part of those that have gotten the grant. 2 people got the grant last year. The people that got the grant last year in energy, agriculture, and education, these were the people that, they give me enough information. So they give me, like, for those 5 grants that I've listed, we now get access to 5 reports about those grants. We've not started applying for the grants, but we've selected the grants we wanted. So after that, we'll now come together in a Zoom meeting like this, and then we look at all those reports one by one. I'll say, okay, for example, this company that got this grant, they've been in existence for 20 years. And the grant says people that have been in business for 15 years and above. Our business is just on the 6th year. We cannot apply for that grant. We shift it. If you will now select maybe the best one or the best 2, we'll now go open the grant link and now go through everything. And so it takes a bit of time, but I can put all my effort into 2 or 3 grants, and I'm very, very sure I will get it, as against shooting on shooting around the different corners and the likes. Also, just like your CV, you cannot get just one CV to apply for all the jobs available. You are the head of operations at a company, but the company needs maybe the head of marketing role, or that with programs role, or whatever. So if you are good in programs, for example, all you need to do is, for example, I've been in operations, I've been in programs, but if AIIDEV said, Charles, that an application for a trainer for this program, I'm not going to carry my CV for the operations or my CV for programs to apply. I will edit my CV to show that I've led people, I've been at events, I'm good in partnership, I've applied for grants, and I've gotten grants. So I will edit that my original CV into what AIIDEV would like to see. I'm not lying, okay? I'm not telling lies, but I'm just giving a different context. On a good day, in your typical job, you do, in fact, those things on your JD, you do times 3 or times 4 of them actually. If a job is looking for event planners, and in terms of maybe the end of year party or the quarterly retreat or whatever, you're the person that plans it for your office. You're an event planner. You don't need to have an Instagram page to plan events, or you don't need to be into wedding. So you can package yourself and say part of the project you've handled in your company as well as head of marketing. Quarterly reports, you guys take a retreat to this place, you plan the events, accommodation, and every other thing. Annual reports, end of year parties, birthday celebration. So it's still the same in the same marketing role. For the non-marketing things we did, that were focused more on events, we've actually done that. So please, just like you can't use a single CV to apply for different jobs, the same way you can't use a single proposal or a single idea to apply for all the grants. I've given you the idea of that tree, people that are planting 1 million trees in different aspects as well. Then, of course, clear objectives, measurable outcomes. You should be able to measure it. You want to train 500 teachers, okay? We need to see pictures. We need to see a list that shows that maybe 2,000 teachers registered and shortlisted. In fact, AIIDEV, for example, all of you that are here, I'm sure that almost 10 of you registered for this and they selected. So AIIDEV also have clear objectives. These are the things they want to get. They have proof and all those other things as well. Then don't be overly ambitious. You cannot solve the world food. You cannot solve the problem of the country today with your project because you don't have enough resources to do that. So focus in your niche and what you can actually do to make a difference as well. If a project cannot be solved in 2 years, and the grant said they can give you the grant in just 1 year, let them know that the project is going to take 2 years, but let them know that for the first 1 year of the project, which is what the grant is willing to solve, these are the things you can do within the first 1 year. I'm going to show you a chart after this. Then, of course, please, the last thing we need to see is any writing or grammatical error. Even if you are not good in English, you are not good in grammar, it's important that we have Grammarly, you have many AI tools. I mean, in fact, even your normal Microsoft Word or Google Docs, you can underline the non-stop. And it also helps when you have people that go to cross-check whatever you're presenting to make sure that it's going to be in good place. Please. And yeah, I think lest I forget another important tip. I don't want to go back. You see all those forms that are filling, all those boxes. If you're applying for a grant, have somebody on your team or yourself open a Microsoft Word and startups, yeah. Okay, no. Funny enough, the company I said we got over $500,000 and we got about 5 grants from world bodies. We're not even up to 5 years in existence. We are still a startup. Okay, in fact, it don't, like I said, Dangote as a company can apply for grants. It will not make sense if me that I have an initiative without a company, I'm going to go and apply for the same grants. There are different grants for different levels. So when you go and you are overly ambitious, you overshoot yourself. A grant is available for a corporation, but you are an initiative or you're an NGO, you're going to go and apply. The grant is available for businesses of 5 years or more. You are just 1 year. The grant is available for female-led entrepreneurs. That means if you are the CEO and you're a man and you're applying for that grant, no matter how sweet it is, you will not get it because you're not a lady. If the grant said that they need at least 50% representation in the decision-making bodies of that business, and all your managers are male, your HR is really female, and applying for the grant, and they look at that, you will not get that grant. So please, the most important thing, if you're going to miss anything out, is number one, check out my number one on your screen. Follow application guidelines. And how are you going to know it based on the research you're going to do? Okay, then please, very, very important, required document. I've already taught you how to work around the required documents. Go online and Google what are the typical documents I need for a grant application. You need the proposal, generally, although I might not use it. You need your CAC or your registration documents. You need your passport. Probably you need pictures of your team members. You need your, all those other things. You need your audited financial statements. Get all those things. You don't need to apply for a grant to start getting them. Open a Google folder and fix them there and label it properly. Then please, if a grant said that they're going to start in February 1 and they will end on the 15th of March, don't apply on the 10th or the 12th or 13th of March, because by the time you're applying, over 2,000 people have applied. One funny thing, when it comes to grants, it is human beings like you and I that will be going through the grants, looking at them one by one. So in fact, if you're among the first 5, 10, 50 people that apply, they're going to be in a better position than even the last. So please, let's not wait till it's almost the deadline to apply. So I think you can just check the slides for another part I've missed out on. Let me just check. Okay, yeah, so please, before you submit, okay, I think I was saying this earlier. So for my team, what we do is that we open a Microsoft Word document, a Google Doc. Page 1, we say, fill this, fill this, fill this. Once you fill it and click on next, it will go to the next. If as I'm filling it, I'll tell my team, copy the question and copy our answer. What is your name? My name is Charles Global Enterprises. I'll copy what is your name, I'll paste it. I'll copy my answer, I'll paste it. Question and answer. So I'm replicating that form that I filled, but I put it in a Microsoft Word document. Why? Because my intern that is filling that, she's the one filling it, I'm not the one filling it. So I might not necessarily see what she has filled, but because I did this Microsoft Word feature, everything she has filled, all the questions and all the answers she puts, she will put that in a Microsoft Word document, and then before she submits, she will save it first, and then share that document to me. Instead of me clicking on next, because I can't be logging in with her email, I'll just check that document. Oh, okay, this one is too long. Change this, change this. I'll correct that Microsoft Word document that she has sent to me with the answers that she filled. Okay? Then when we are done, I'll give her that you can proceed. She'll just go back next, or go back to the beginning. Maybe she puts Charles Global Enterprise. She's not put limited. All I'll just put it, she just, okay, Dr. Charles said that she put limited, she put it. So that way it's going to be a lot easier. So you can see how from just one person filling a form, me that I'm the supervisor, I can see what she has filled without even logging in to see the same thing she has filled. So using of these tools actually helps us a lot as well. And that is how it's a lot easier for you. So you don't say, okay, your proposal is 5 pages. I can read the 5 pages, but now that I'm filling a form, a very, very long form online, how am I going to see it? And all those things. Okay, very, very important. So yes, I think the last point on the left corner, this is the pink picture. Look at the last point. Talk to the funder if you need help. Interestingly enough, for some of our funders, especially those that are, let me say some of the European American funders, they are not too rigid in terms of partnership. There are some fundings or some grants that we've applied for. Sorry, I know AIIDEV, and I'm taking a lot of time. I'll be done very, very soon, please. There are some funding that we've applied for. And if the grant is announced in the next 1 week, they have an FAQ section whereby the people that are giving the grant to be on a session like this, you ask any question. In fact, they will give you the grants from beginning to end. They'll be specific. The same thing I'm doing for you. They'll present the grants application process to you. And then you can ask your questions. It's not everybody that can do this. For the grant I told you that my team and I got, for example, I'm a veterinary doctor by training. And then I was promoted to be the head of the program department. I've been in the company for 5 years. I was promoted to be the head of the program department. Myself and a fellow veterinary doctor that I hired and I trained as well. So we had zero experience in anything grant or whatever, but I'm very, very good at operations. I'm good at documentation and everything, just like the training I'm doing now. So the moment I became the head of program department, it was a new department, I created it and I became the head. I wrote to the CEO that I wanted the girl to come and work with me. She's very, very smart and sharp. In our first 1 week of going to that program, a grant came up in the renewable energy space. We positioned ourselves when I applied. We competed with people that was there. In fact, we competed with renewable energy companies who are an architect company with zero experience. We got that fund, $75,000 US. How did you do it? Number one, follow the guidelines. We're very, very detailed to the letter. We work with our consultants and our mentors. Number two, in fact, it was mostly the English. And then number three, anywhere we were not familiar with, because one thing I'm good at is in relationship building. Quickly, before we even started applying for the grant, LinkedIn, like I told you, we followed their page. So the Rocky Mountain Institute, the one we go to the World Bank, followed their page, found out who the key stakeholders were, the program manager for the fund, sent all of their connection requests. Of course, they accepted because we told them we're applying. And then at the stage that we're stuck, we sent them an email. Hello, sir. Hello, ma. Please, we are stuck at this particular stage. Can we get more information? So they said, we asked first question, second question. They said, you know what? Let us have a Zoom meeting. The guys that were giving the funding, the $75,000 had a Zoom meeting specially for us. Myself and my colleague were there with my boss at the meeting. We asked all our questions and they gave us insights. So grant making bodies can be very, very flexible. Think outside the box. By the time we're applying, we were special because they knew us. They saw how much work we had put in. They'll be like, okay, no, this one is not supposed to be here. Remove this. I think you should do this and that. And we applied and we got the funding. In fact, we got a state that other people that wanted to apply, because of how much we got, and it was a very, very big fund. I even had to go to Kenya to represent my company at the World Bank Conference to present what we did for that fund. Other companies tonight and I say, hello, Dr. Charles, we have this fund available. We want you guys to apply. Why? Because of how we positioned ourselves. If we apply for that grant and we get it, we're going to make them look good because we're going to affect the project. So please, it's very, very important that you can talk to the funders if help is needed. So please think outside the box, okay? And just because of time, when you're talking about timeline of projects, okay, a grant is being given, it's supposed to be given in January, but last year, November, they said to apply for the grant. So they want you to say, okay, from January 1st to December 20th, which is when the grant is going to run to, what are the things you are going to do? There are different methods to present it. If they don't give you a format, this is actually some formats you can use. The one at the top right corner is what we call I don't know if my cursor is working. Okay, yeah, I hope you can see it. It's what we call the Gantt chart, GANTT. So remember, I'm seeing that garbage collection service I talked earlier. These are going to be the tasks on this side, and then the chronological dates or the timeline or the month or week or year or whatever on this side. So this says, for example, like I said, task number 1 could be market research. Go to 3 communities, talk to the king, talk to the village head, conduct market research about it. How long is it going to take? January 1 to January 31st. So you can see this is the month. This says January, week 1 in January. This is the task here. It's not task, but I'm just giving you an example. Market research is going to take us January 1 to January 31st. After market research, recruit members of staff. That is going to be the 5th task. 5th task is going to take from February 1 to February 15th. That is this line. After you greet them, commence the project, buy equipment, train 2 people, do evaluation and monitoring, then get impact reports, do the final meeting, present to the funders. So this is what a Gantt chart looks like. It's just like saying, these are the things I'll do. This is the time it will take me to do it. So by me looking at this task, I know that, okay, if this is looking at January to December, remember this is the first one, and this is January. This is the last one, and this is December. So I say, okay, this is project to run from January to December, just by me looking at this thing. Okay, now what are the things that they need to do? It's well stated here. So if you need more information, just go on YouTube and watch. You can just click on Gantt charts and put your project. Gantt charts for a renewable energy project, Gantt chart for a maybe a waste project or any kind of project. I mean, somebody has already answered. It's better that you ask this question. And okay, I'll share my email, and they'll make a video about this. Okay, the next line is now time in terms of timeline. So remember, the first one is more of using the Excel-based format, the table form. People are not focused on a specific year. 2018, this is what I'll do. 2019, this is what I'll do. 2020, it could be January, community research, February, higher staff, March, this and this. It's still the same thing for different periods of presentation. This is what we call, so why this is the Gantt chart, this is the timeline, this is what we call the roadmap. Roadmap is, like I said, you want to go from here to the US. Roadmap is, I'm starting my car here, this one to park my car. By the time I get here, I want to buy fuel for my car. This is where I'm doing my market research. I move over to this place, I want to hire my members of staff, I want to carry some people into my car. I move over to this place, I want to, train the first people, I want to, whatever, and every other thing. So this 3 can be, you can choose anyone you want, especially if they don't ask. But if you're going to have to pitch your project, you have to decide on any of this. If you have someone with a good tech background, like I said, you need a tech friend, they can actually help you design something like this as well. Then I think this should be my second to the last slide. You need a good team for your project. It might not even be AIIDEV, for example, but imagine tomorrow you have a project, you want to apply, and you find out that, okay, I think one of the things I advise you is, please, whether it's going to be Manuel or the facilitator or any member of the AIIDEV team, or even any program you've handled before, one of the strongest things you should do is focus more on networking than even collecting certificates is good, but networking is more important. If we are 20 or 30 in this cohort, if you can leave this cohort after the next 1 or 2 months and say that, okay, as of December, you're sending Happy Christmas or Happy New Year to 20 members of this group on your WhatsApp channel, I believe that you're a better winner than someone that just got the certificate. And that is all. Focus more on networking. In fact, whenever you're planning to have a project, please have advisors, have consultants. They don't necessarily need to be paid. I'm a volunteer advisor on about 2 or 3 companies. I'm a volunteer consultant for many groups and the likes. But it will help you that whenever you're applying for a project, people can see the quality of people that are going to be on your project list. AIIDEV, for example, is a very, very strong platform, but they also rely on strong facilitators. At the end of each year, they put a big template like this, and they put the pictures of all their facilitators. So imagine when you check there, you're seeing Charles' name there, you're seeing maybe the former program officer of Dangote Group, you're seeing the United States embassy, whatever, you're seeing all those names. It's big for them on networking. Okay, so anybody that's going to work with AIIDEV next year, when they look at that, they're like, wow, if this quality of people can consult or can facilitate for AIIDEV, that this is the kind of platform I want to work with. Remember, like I told you, AIIDEV had an invite to participate for an international award from an SDG champion group in Europe. Okay, so this is what a typical advisor, team, most times when I'm pitching for a project, they want to know, okay, who are the members of the team? I've seen some people just post their name and their wife's name. I'm the CEO, this is my wife, she's the co-founder, that's all. No, have volunteer staff. You could look for a copper, you could look for probably a student in your area, or 1 or 2 or 3 people. Like I said, you have the guy that's into finance, you have the guy that's into tech. You could just put them as tech advisor, finance advisor, training consultants. You can even put Emmanuel's name, for example, if it's great to idea, as your SDGs advisor or something like that. So that way, you are the person that have the idea, but to gather 2 or 3 or 4 strong people that I can actually put as members of your team. It really, really helps. It's a lot better than just having only yourself and like the alpha and omega of your projects. Okay, this is just a typical example. When you go to the slide, you can see, but when you're presenting it, you don't just want to, for example, my name is Charles. You don't just want to put my picture alone. Not to put my name, Dr. Charles Michel. You don't want to put, Charles has 10 years experience in grants application, this and this. Charles is the co-founder of this. Charles is the CEO of this and all those things. So when you look at this, you can just see an example of what some of them are. So if I had just this name and the pictures with just their names alone, it's not strong enough. So it's so that I put what they're currently doing, CEO of this. These are not real names, they're just fake names, okay? CEO of this and the likes, okay? And then I put their years of experience. So when somebody that has 20 years of experience is an advisor for my initiative of my business, it adds more credibility to my business than just putting only my name there. So, okay, when you get the slide, I get to see this as well. Then, like I said, have pictures on standby. Charles, I'm just starting my initiative. I'm not generating the idea. I've not done. Please go outside and volunteer. Go and talk to people. Go to a school. Talk to them. Go to that project you say you want to do. Have a pilot. Do it for free. Start off something. Take pictures and put it on LinkedIn. Okay, it's more better that I say you volunteered 1 or 2. In fact, if you can't even do it yourself, look for people that are doing it and volunteer with them. You can even tell the story that you wanted to do this project, but you have to go and volunteer with people that are doing it already to learn. Okay. You might not have done the project, or you're a new company, or you're a new group, or a new initiative, but for the fact that you've done something like this, it actually helps a lot. Okay, so have pictures if you can. It actually helps to show that you can actually deliver on the results and the likes. So also sometimes you've gotten the grant, or you've applied for the grant, and you've gotten this. Just focuses on how you want to be able to manage relationship with your funders. So people get funding after 1 year. That is all. Me, for most of the funding we've gotten a 2nd one, and a 3rd one, and a 4th one, and a 5th one. For example, the World Bank funding that we got, it was a milestone-based funding. It was $75,000, but they broke it down into 4. They did not give us the money up front. Yeah, I think I forgot to mention this. Some fundings are not full money up front. They broke it down into 4 milestones. First milestone, you say you do 4 things for us to achieve a result. You use your money and your resources and do the first one, and you submit the proof to them. They vet it. Once it's okay and it fits in, they'll pay you the money. Okay, so that was how I was supposed to do it. $5,000 broken down into 4. We're supposed to use their own money. But we tried our best. We don't really have much money to use, but we did our bit. And like I said, we were negotiating, we were discussing with the funders. So I said, okay, if care is not taken because of the lack of few funds that we have, might not be able to use our money to execute this project at this particular phase. What I did was I told the funders, sir, Oma, this is what we've done. This first phase is going to take 4 months. At the end of the first month, we generated an impact report, a one-page report with a small PowerPoint presentation of 5 slides of what we've done so far. Without their asking, we sent it to them. Hello, Charles, and this is not ideal, you're not supposed to. I said, yeah, we just wanted to keep you updated. And apparently, the supervisor said, I said, okay, let us jump in a Zoom meeting, come and present it to us. And we said, okay, this is what we wanted to do. We met the challenges, we did it and that. And like I said, they were taken over by how young we were, how inexperienced we were, but how we thought outside the box and how we innovated around all the challenges we had. The first tranche of money was supposed to be $20,000 and they were supposed to give it to us after the 4th month. After this presentation, they approved $10,000 for us. After the 1st month, relationships is key. How you manage relationship is very, very important. Okay, so please give me periodic feedback. Even if people give you money and they are now asking for feedback, is it every quarter? Is it at the half of the year? Is it at the end? Prepare reports. Work with someone that is good at PowerPoint, just like pictures you can see at this corner. How many beneficiaries? There's 500 teachers. You've done a market research to talk to 2 associations. You visited 5 schools. You've trained 20 teachers as a pilot. In your first month, package it and send the report to them. Let them know that you're doing something. They should not just wait till the end of 365 days. And then telling them we had the challenges and all those. You can even say, okay, challenges where teachers are not willing to. And another thing again, please, whenever I'm mentioning challenges, mention what you are doing to mitigate against those challenges. Don't just offer a challenge to somebody. Teachers are not willing, or the community members were not willing to accept us. What did we do? We had to go and speak to the village head. We have to provide free resources for the community and all those. So for each problem you're presenting to anybody, offer what, even if the solution is not 100%, be a bit proactive to offer the solution you can give to those people as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, I believe sorry, I know I've taken over close to 2 hours already, but the grant space is quite a lot. When you go online to Google or to YouTube, you can get so much information from there. But like I said, most of them are substandard, most of them are old, most of them are not even assistant at last year. And for me and my team that we've gotten a lot of grants, I was still applying to get a lot more. It's very, very important that you know some of the things that we do differently. Sometimes when you come online, you see the same guys wearing the black t-shirt with their logo, holding big checks and snapping picture year in, year out, and it feels like they're special, but no, they know how to focus on relationships. And once you get the first funding, you can get more and more and more. And please, your journey does not just stop at AIIDEV. AIIDEV might have other programs for you. There are also other global mentorship programs. So it's even better that at the end of this year, you've attended 3 or 4 mentorship programs. But just keep, please, as I'm currently talking to you, this same thing I'm doing with AIIDEV, I do it for about 5 or 6 or 7 other organizations or NGOs across the world, some in the US, some in the UK. So please, education does not stop. But when you are focused on building relationships and you know how to work around some of these things, it really, really helps. So I believe with some of the tips I've given us so far, at least when next year looking out for funds or when it's applying, we know what to apply or what to do a bit different to position ourselves better. So thank you very much. I think I'll be handing over to the facilitator. So, I mean, as they're talking, I'll post the link of my slide. I'll post my LinkedIn page as well, and then I'll post my email. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. I always accept in less than 24 hours. Then if you have any question or any discussion, you can always chat later. So I think over to you, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Charles. And like always, I'm personally, I always love to listen to you. When we have you come on board on any of our sections, you have always ensured to deliver even way beyond what we actually bid for. And I sincerely want to appreciate you on behalf of the leadership of AIIDEV Africa for such a practical and very insightful section that you have given to each and every one of us this evening. If you would be able to read through the chat, you can see that everyone on the call could confirm that you have so done justice to the presentation this evening. And I think much more better each and everyone on this call should be able to show their appreciation to you, even as though it's a virtual session. They may do well to use the reaction button to express their gratitude to you, and even use the chat to express how well they've enjoyed the section. So thank you very much, Dr. Charles. So right about now, we will be going into the questions. For anyone on the call who has a question, I'd like for you to use the raise hand function. Do raise your hand and would allow you to be able to ask your question. However, I would want to say that we do well to maximize the little time we have ahead of us, because it's been a long evening somehow. So if you have anyone with questions, please, this is the time you want to raise your hand and you'll be allowed to ask. Or if you love to drop your question in the chat, do well to do that. We'll be given the chance for 3 persons to do this, and we'll be moving ahead to some other activities for the evening. So I just give it like about 1 minute to observe if we have anyone signify by raising their hand or type a question in the chat. Okay. Oh yeah, if we do not have any raise of hand, I think that would signify that, okay, let me see, there's something in the chat. Okay, it's an appreciation. Thank you very much. Thank you. So yeah, Dr. Charles, I think this is how it has always been. Your sessions are always very expressive, such that it leaves even the layman so filled with capacity. And of course, I think for this evening, it seems we do not have questions again. Let me bring it to the attention of each and everyone on the call. He has dropped some links in the chat. You can do well to make use of the links, connect with him on LinkedIn, copy out the presentation. And of course, I know it's something that you found very useful, even beyond now. I want to say something before we go for today. Oh, there's a question from Aaron Tetsi. Please, Aaron, you do your question under 1 minute, please, and very quickly as much as possible. So you can unmute your mic now and ask your question, please.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Presentation. I want to ask you that. Yes, I want. In applying for the grant, can you also apply for a grant for maybe a research in line with the SDGs? Can you apply for a grant for? Thank you.
Please, can you repeat the question again?
Please. When you are working on a project, a research to the SDGs, can you also apply for a grant, and how do you go about that?
Okay, so any grants you want to apply for, naturally, I mean, there's no limit. There are grants for virtually everything you can think of. You just have to do your research. So even if you are working on a project and there's a and you want to apply for a grant for research, you have to ask yourself first, do we even have anybody that's willing to offer a grant for that particular research? If the SDG is okay, I'm seeing as a first question. If the SDG focus is, for example, on SDG 1, and a grant is offering research grants on SDG 2, you might not get that. So for any grant you want to apply for, just don't assume that it's not going to be there. You need to dig in very, very deep. And then even after digging deep, you also want to confirm that the grant you're applying for is available for your SDG, for your project, for your specific project as well, and then for that particular community or that region. So if you're doing an SDG 1 project, for example, in Tanzania, and there's a fund available for SDG 1, but when you look at the grant, they said that they're willing to fund the project only in Kenya or in Namibia or in Uganda, it might not really work out well. So you can apply for any fund or grant, number one, but it has to be fitting to your project and to your context per se. I remember, like I told you, it's not every grant that you're 100% eligible for. So even if you feel you want a research-based grant on something and you don't find any particular grant available, and what if you find that grant and the grant said they're only going to give the grants to research institutions or to NGOs that have probably been in business for 3 or 4 years, but you're just an individual having a particular project. So you can do almost anything you want, but then while you're doing your research, follow the application guidelines. But it's first important to convince yourself beyond reasonable doubt that is there even any grants under that particular space. If there is, all well and good, then start looking at those grants and say, number one, your projects or yourself or your community or your region, are they eligible for that particular grant? If yes, in any way, then you have to key yourself into be able to get that. But I think research also helps as well as following the application guidelines.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Sam. I saw Zipporah is asking, elaborate on the new donor funding strategy where they ask that applicants do proposals in groups or consortia. Yes, it happens. We once applied for the elimination of, I used to work at an NGO in Lagos. It's the United Nations Trust Fund for the elimination of violence against women. And they told us that for you to make a very, very strong application, apply for the grant in a group. Yes, there's going to be a primary application, applicants, but then they needed at least 2 or 3 stakeholders. For example, the grant we were applying for was, our project was focused in the northeastern part of Nigeria, where there were lots of, insurgency, kidnap, killings, banditry, and all those other things as well. And our focus was looking at scholarships for children. And I think looking at scholarships for children and a form of sanctuary for women that have been, that probably are victims. Yeah, it was a particular tailored towards women. So looking at women, they were victims of violence. Most of them are displaced, their husbands have been killed, they don't have families or something, some of them are pregnant and the likes. So for the context of that, the project told us that stronger applications we need to apply in groups. So what we did was we had to look for 2 sister NGOs. There were, for example, we were based in Lagos, Abuja. Lagos and Abuja were our operational offices. But we had an NGO. They were focused on working with women intentionally, and that NGO was based in the particular community that we're working with. So we had to work with the NGO number 1. We also had, I think, an orphanage or a sanctuary for women based in another state, but they had a nationwide reach as well. So part of working in that groups, if you're working on applying for groups, as against looking at the differences of the groups, focus on the strengths. For example, a group is based in the capital, or let me say, Zipporah is in Kenya. So assuming that you're supposed to apply for a particular group for Kenya as a whole, but a group that is strong in terms of partnerships, and they have a lot of, in terms of politics, or they have access to politics and government agencies and the like. They're based in Nairobi, which is the capital. Then maybe the beneficiaries of the group are probably fishermen or farmers or those along the coastal regions. And Mombasa, I believe, is a port in Kenya. And then there's a group that is focused in that same area, but they have their offices in Mombasa. And they probably have a group that, so you can probably even see how to link 1 or 2 or 3 of those groups together. But the most important thing is to focus on how will our collective strengths as a group help us focus on these grants. That way, for example, the money is not even, I'm sure they're not even going to pay the money to a particular account of the group. They're going to do it together. But in terms of preparing the project, whenever you're having your first group of meetings with the consortium or with the group, the most important thing is to identify what the advantage of each group is going to be to the project itself, number 1, and to the beneficiaries. In fact, let it not even be what the project will benefit the group itself. Remember, the funders want to see how they're going to help those women in those communities or those fishermen, and not necessarily help you, your company get money. So once you focus on that, you're able to identify all these things. So you could even see in terms of your implementation framework, where group A or company A is going to maybe the state government or the regional government to speak with the people in politics to probably see whether some policies can be passed for this. Another group is saying that they're going to the communities to talk to the farmers and do a bit of a market survey or a community survey. Another group can say that they're going to work with the health agencies to get access to some of all those things. So the focus is to get the strengths of each of those groups and then focus on that as well. But then some funds, they usually ask you for that. But most of these funds that do that are usually high-level organizations. And those ones, it's not just you that make that decision. Probably go to work with the CEOs and the program managers of all these other groups. But from my experience, when you focus on the strength of each of those groups and how it is going to benefit the nation as a whole or the region as a whole and the beneficiaries and the general impact. So if you alone doing that group, that project might take you a whole year and it might impact 50 people. If you guys work as a group, it could take you still maybe a year or 2 years or even 6 months, but it could even impact as much as 500 or 1,000 people. Those are the kind of things your funders want to see. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Charles. And I think right about now we won't be able to take more than one more question because we need to go for the night. And I think since you've shared your LinkedIn with us, every other person can, do well to utilize that opportunity to ask further questions with you. So I think right now I want to allow Mrs. Fatima to ask a question. And I see a question on the chat while Mrs. Fatima is preparing to unmute. Someone is asking for the probability of getting a grant as an unregistered organization. So you can maybe in 1 minute help to answer that while Mrs. Fatima then takes over and asks a question. And in the next 5 minutes, I think it will be good for us to just go for the night, sir.
Okay. So I think
so the question will be, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen the question. So I think I put a chat, but just quickly. Yeah, very, very important question. The most important thing is going to be the justification. Something naturally just go for exhausting the exact fund that they're giving you. But remember, if they're asking, they have $100,000 US, they're not even looking at whether you need the $100,000 US. They're looking at how you justify the what you want to use the money for. So assume it's $100,000 US, but they say that a bulk of the money is going to go to enriching yourself or your project or getting vehicles or some other thing that will not benefit the project itself or the beneficiary. But it looks like your organization just needs the money to boost some of the finances and the likes. It might not really be appealing. But in case you might need to overshoot it, okay, it's important that you work towards the base fund. And now explain in detail or in context that it's 100,000 they have, but your project naturally will need 150,000 US. You tell them that yes, so this is what your project looks like. These are the parts that you want them to fund, but for the remaining 50,000 US, you need to now apply for other funds to be able to get that. That means they're going to be aware that if you win and they give you 100,000 US, then they're expecting to also win another grant elsewhere. But the justification is actually very, very important. And number one, your finances should show why you even need as much as 100,000 US. Sometimes even I've been in a funding group whereby the person pitched, and at the end of the day, we decided to increase the person's ticket. We added a bit more money because the project was so impactful, and we felt what they had, the idea they had, could actually even impact people even as much as within the first pilot stage of the project. So we increased the tickets of the amount they're willing to get. But the justification is just the most important aspect that really helps a lot. So the moment you can easily explain it, either in writing or as a clause in your Excel sheet, or probably even doing a meeting, or even when you're submitting the email, sometimes I used to put some 1 or 2 page justification to explain why we are overshooting or we're not using enough of that. For example, if you've gotten $25,000 US for this particular project before, and your nothing is changing, and US people want to give you $100,000 US, and you don't need the extra money, and you are not meeting up to the 100,000, you can explain that you've been funded already, and then those other things. So the most important aspect is how you explain it, number one, and how your finances will help you justify how much you actually will need. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Charles. And now Mrs. Fatima will ask a question, and that will be the last question for tonight. So, Mrs. Fatima.
Hello, thank you. Hello, thank you. I was the one that typed the question because I didn't know if I'll be given the opportunity to speak. So he has responded to my question. I was the one that typed it.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So, Dr. Charles, I think this is where it ends for tonight. I really want to appreciate you for the time, for your sacrifice. On behalf of the leadership of AIIDEV Africa, we thank you for the sacrifices that you have taken to take the session for tonight. And of course, much more for the resources that you have shared with us. I know it will go a long way in the performance of each and every one on this session this evening. But more importantly, I think I just want to advise everyone to put this into practice. It is always easier to learn this, and you are all filled with the enthusiasm and all, but the practicality itself is where profitability lies. So I think it's in our best interest that we put all these methodologies that have been shared with us this evening into practice. So if it is possible, I want to see in the chat now about 50 thank you and appreciation word before Dr. Charles leaves this call. I want to see it from except if you feel like he has not been able to touch you this evening. So I want to see in the chat now your appreciation, anyhow, whatever word it is. I just want to see it now. I'm waiting. We have less than 3 minutes. Yeah, I see Puleng. I see Sephora. Yes, Coach Demudia, I see that. Yeah, Justin, I see yours. Yaya Yusuf, that's amazing. Yeah, Claire, I see that. Philip, fantastic. So yeah, Dr. Charles, we at AIIDEV Africa, we are very grateful. We appreciate you. And I think at this point, we want to let go for the night. And I'm sure that our people are going to be in touch with you on LinkedIn. And beyond that, we still have a lot of things to do together. So we'll always be in touch.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice night. Thank you.
Nice evening to you. Good night, everybody. And thank you for making it. Next Thursday, we meet again. Enjoy yourself, everyone.